The early 1600s marked a pivotal shift in the growing continents of the Americas. Beneath the shrouded skies and along the treacherous currents of the Atlantic, ships silently navigated their way, carrying human cargo in their holds. Men, women, and children whose lives were forever altered by the heavy chains of enslavement. This was a solemn passage enacted with the utmost stealth, as the world moved beneath a cloak of twilight, the onset of evening casting elongated shadows over the undulating waves. As these vessels finally touched strange and unfamiliar shores, the passengers disembarked into a world shrouded in mystery and apprehension. As we peer into the hazy veil of history that partially conceals these events, we can almost hear the rhythmic thump of the ocean against the hull, each wave an obstacle to be overcome, each creak of the ship a prelude to a new beginning. A beginning not of choice, but of necessity. The silence that accompanies such voyages is multifaceted. It is the silence born from the fear of the unknown, the unwillingness to accept the fate that lies ahead, and the oppressive knowledge that these journeys are a precursor to lives of toil and subjugation. Upon landing, these new arrivals were introduced to landscapes unlike any they had previously known, where the familiar sounds, scents, and sights had been exchanged for wild and untamed environs. The towering trees whispered secrets of this land into the wind, while the settlers, who had already claimed parts of these shores, watched with steely eyes. For the enslaved, the weight of this new world rested heavily upon their souls, a reminder of both loss and resilience. It was in this crucible of forced migration and mingling cultures that the foundation stones of early America were haphazardly laid. As the days turned into weeks and weeks into years, the echoes of their existence began to imprint themselves upon the landscape. These individuals, though caught in the oppressive machinery of slavery, bore silent witness to and actively participated in the nascent stages of a budding nation. They contributed to the colonial economy, toiling in fields and homes, aiding in the construction of settlements, while their own narratives were often overlooked or obscured. Yet, through their labor and resilience, they left indelible marks upon the character and culture of the territories, their influence radiating outward in subtle, yet unmistakable ways. Over time, the stories of these inaugural inhabitants burgeoned into a chorus of resilience and tenacity, weaving a complex tapestry of cultural interconnections. As the sun set on the horizon each evening, it mirrored the arcs of their lives, casting long shadows that encompassed both grief and undying hope. A hope for eventual freedom, for recognition, for a voice to be expressed without fear. The contributions of these individuals were more than mere happenstance. They were central to the development of economic structures and social dynamics in these fledgling colonies. Their crafts, knowledge, and tenacious spirit acted as a counterbalance to the hostile and unforgiving environments that often accompanied colonial endeavors. As people lay their heads to rest, perhaps under the same stars that guided the ships across the Atlantic, they could find solace in these shared stories, stories that remind us of endurance amid adversity, of whispers that cut through the silence, and of shadows that bear our histories forward into the light. Through these reflections, we honor their legacy, an integral part of the foundation upon which future generations stand. In the early dusk of American history, the shadows of the colonial era stretch long and obscure. Amongst these shadows, there exist countless lives, untold and unrevealed, their names lost to time. These were the early enslaved individuals, whose stories, contributions, and humanity remained shrouded under the oppressive cloak of anonymity. Unlike the great figures of history, whose names echo through the corridors of time, these individuals served as the unseen backbone of a growing nation. The force of their labor and the fire of their spirits were foundational to the colony's success, yet they remain largely absent from the annals of recorded history. In this era, records were sparse and often focused on those deemed noteworthy by wealth or title. The enslaved, however, existed in a parallel reality, their lives meticulously recorded not in grand tomes or elegant scripts, but in ledgers of trade, inventories of goods, and cryptic annotations in court records. In these documents, their identities were often reduced to single names, or more often, to nameless entities, descriptions such as boy, girl, man, or woman attached without context or individuality. Yet even in silence, their lives were marked by resilience and strength. From the sugar plantations of the Caribbean to the tobacco fields of Virginia, Their labor drove the engines of commerce. They were skilled artisans, creating intricate carpentry. They were cooks, infusing meals with knowledge of flavors and spices unknown to their colonial overseers. They were caretakers, builders, and laborers, their hands shaping the very fabric of colonial society. Imagine a day in the life of one such individual on a bustling plantation in the Carolinas. The dawn breaks, and she rises with it, her day dictated by the rhythm of labor, the cycles of planting and harvest. She works in the fields, tending to rows of indigo or rice, her body moving to a melody bereft of music, but rich in the cadence of shared toil. As her fingers gently tease apart the earth, she hums softly, a song inherited from her ancestors, carrying with it the whispers of her homeland, now far across the ocean. In the evenings, after the sun dips below the horizon and the day's work is done, she gathers with others around a small fire. It is in these fleeting moments of rest that she asserts her humanity most fiercely. Stories are shared, a narrative tapestry woven of fragments from distant lands, dreams of freedom, whispers of rebellion. It is in these tales and in the shared laughter and tears that her identity shines brightest, though no historian has recorded these nights of communal solidarity. Through our exploration of these forgotten lives, we come to appreciate the complex interweaving of cultures that formed in colonial America. This is a multicultural story, blending African, indigenous, and European traditions, each influencing the other in a landscape both brutal and rich with possibility. Their contributions, whether material or cultural, impacted every facet of life in the colonies and echo through the generations that have followed. In crafts, architecture, music, and cuisine, elements of their influence remain, subtle yet profound. The resilience of their spirit, the defiance against dehumanization, and their vital role in shaping a burgeoning society serve as a silent testament to their existence. Though history books are often silent, the physical realities of their impact are undeniable. Their work built the infrastructure of cities, created wealth, and laid down traditions that endure. The anonymity of these individuals in historical records is a stark reminder of history's biases, a narrative that favors the powerful and silences the subjugated. Yet, in our quest to remember them, we find a greater truth: names may be forgotten, but the legacy of their labor and their indomitable spirit endures. As we reflect upon their contributions, we honor not only their struggles, but also their triumphs. In each story unearthed, in each life reclaimed from obscurity, we affirm the richness and depth of a history too often neglected. In contemplating these forgotten lives, history becomes not a dry recounting of dates and battles, but a meditation on humanity, profoundly peaceful in its insistence on recognizing the dignity of every individual. As you sink into the tranquility of these reflections, imagine the vibrant symphony of lives lived and lost, a legacy unseen but unfaltering, and let it guide you gently into restful sleep. In the gentle embrace of the fields, under the vast dome of a quiet sky, life unfolded with a tranquil rhythm. The landscape stretched wide, with smooth hills softly rolling into the horizon, a place where the land itself seemed to whisper the stories of its laborers, those who toiled in the sun, bent over crops, their hands deft with the knowledge passed through generations. Enslaved laborers they were, bound to the soil, their fingers weaving through the earth like they were part of the landscape itself. Each day began with the first light of dawn, the sun's warmth guiding them out to the fields, where the day would unfold in silent, earnest labor. This was their world, a tapestry woven with shades of green and gold, endless rows of crops swaying gently in the breeze, a serenity only broken by their rustle or the distant call of a bird. The tools they used were simple yet effective, carved from the very materials nature provided. As they worked, their movements were a dance performed countless times before, each step and gesture in harmony with the earth beneath their feet. They knew the land as intimately as they knew their own thoughts, every clod of soil, every plant a testament to their hard work. There was solace in the routine, a peace found in the predictability of their tasks, from planting seeds to nurturing the growing plants, and later basking in the satisfaction of a harvest well earned. As the seasons changed, so did their labor, each transition marked by the subtle shifts in color and scent sweeping across the fields. Their homes were simple structures, built with patient hands. These buildings, constructed from wood and clay, bore the marks of their makers, each beam and wall silently attesting to the skill and care of their construction. In these homes, evenings would yield to warm gatherings, where stories were spun in the flickering light of small fires. Yet, amidst this peaceful existence lay the undeniable shadow of their bondage. Freedom was a dream, scarcely whispered, for chains of servitude were their unwelcome companions. The sun that watched over their labor also saw their suffering, a silent witness to their enduring endurance. In the field, beneath the watchful sky, they bore their burden with a dignified resilience. There was a profound strength in their quietude, an unspoken resolve that nested deep within their souls. The land was alive, a living canvas upon which they etched their toil. To gaze upon the field was to see the echo of their sweat, their hopes sown along with the seeds. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the landscape, the labor would pause. The silence of the evening descended gently, wrapping the world in a comforting hush. It was in these moments of stillness that the field seemed most alive, the whispered promises of a new dawn drifting through the air. Such was the world of the enslaved laborers, where peace and suffering walked hand in hand, and the promise of tomorrow lay quietly in the heart of the land they so lovingly tended. In an era long past, when God still whispered secrets to the mortals on earth, nestled between expansive fields and jagged coastlines, lay the quaint settlement of Arini. Here, life ebbed and flowed with a simplicity that belied the complex emotions of its denizens. This chapter, Fragment of Life, paints a serene portrait of the industrious hands and warm hearts that hummed in harmony amidst their tumultuous times. Irene wasn't a patchwork of grand architectural feats, but a collection of crafting enclaves and makeshift homes, each breathing the authenticity of its maker. The town's artisans poured their souls into their crafts, delicate trinkets fashioned from bits of sea glass, intricate embroidery that told stories through threads, and pottery so skillfully spun that each piece resonated with the echo of steady hands and heartfelt whispers. At dawn, the gentle hum of life was carried on the breeze. Eris, known for his intricate wood carvings, could always be found under the ancient olive tree. His fingers expertly traced the grains of the wood, coaxing visions from the material, each stroke a testament to precision and patience. Among his collection, one particular sculpture, a dove in mid-flight, symbolized hope amidst the uncertainty. Eris worked tirelessly, aware that in a land constantly brushed by the uncertain hand of fate, preserving the beauty of creation was his quiet rebellion against the chaos. Next door, the air was perpetually steeped in the comforting aroma of fresh bread, baked by the warm-hearted Elara. Her hands, weathered yet graceful, danced across the dough, infusing it with tenderness. It was said that her bread, a staple of every household, held stories. With each knead and fold, memories of shared laughter and whispered secrets seeped into the crust. Elara's small, sunlit bakery was a haven, her bread not merely sustenance but a symbol of unity, a fleeting yet persistent tradition forged in flour and love. In the heart of Irene Leander, a potter whose craft was as enduring as the clay he shaped, sat in front of his wheel. Every vessel that emerged from his hands was a contradiction, at once delicate and robust. His clay, extracted from the riverbed nearby, held history, a testimony to the many lives that once traversed Irene's lands. Each cup, urn, and bowl was a fragment of life being cautiously preserved. As Leander turned the wheel, he often pondered the ethereal ebb of tradition. Could it withstand the tide of time? Life wasn't immune to the ravages of change, yet these humble crafts stood as bastions against it. During the festivals, when the sun dipped low and cast golden hues over the town, the people of Irene would gather. The musicians, guardians of melodies that drifted through generations, would play tunes that spoke not only to the ears, but to the soul. They played old songs, fragments of joy, sorrow, and hope, encapsulated in notes passed down from elders to youth. Irene, often visited by whispered threats of storms and change, thrived on the resilience its people inspired. They may have had to rebuild their homes using driftwood and mud, their lives marked by transient hands that moved like shadows across the landscape of time. Still, within each frail structure lay ornaments of personality, the vibrant scarves strung across windows, the colorful beads hung in doorways, and the sun-bleached rugs underfoot, each a testament to life's perseverance. Under twilight's serene mantle, amidst a chorus of crickets and the gentle rustle of leaves, the village seemed like fragments of a dream, suspended in time. The stories told echoed across the winds, their warmth enveloping the hearers like a lullaby, a peaceful balm lulling them to sleep. These people, their crafts, and their traditions reflected a world where life, even in its constraints, was appreciated down to its smallest, quietest moments. Through the rhythmic telling of their tales, history was not just learned but woven into the fabric of sleeping minds. In the gentle lapse of time's waves along Areni's shores, and the nuanced etchings of memory within the minds of its people, lay a perfect peace, a tranquil testament to the fragments of life whose purity tethered the living to a universal truth across time. In the tender glow of the evening fire, the elders gathered the young around them, gently cradled by the embrace of the serene night. Their voices, soft and comforting, carried the notes of ancient hymns and tales of wonder, tracing the echoes of ancestral lands long left behind. Each word was a gentle lullaby, weaving dreams of verdant fields and crystal streams, painting memories in the minds of the listeners. In those distant lands, now only reachable through stories, lay rolling hills and endless fields where the ancestors once sowed their dreams. The soil, rich and fertile, bore witness to countless stories of love, laughter, and life. Under the shade of the mighty oak, and beside the gently flowing river, families gathered, sharing meals and forging bonds that stretched across generations. The tales echoed with the rustle of golden wheat swaying in the breeze, whispering secrets of the past to those who would listen. Lives flourished under the warm sun, marked by celebrations of the harvest and quiet evenings under the starlit sky. It was a time of peace and prosperity, where every sound, every sight, was a testament to the lives lived in harmony with the land. The ancestors trod those lands with reverence, their feet in tune with the pulse of the earth beneath. The soft crunch of leaves underfoot in autumn, the crisp silence of winter mornings, the jubilant songs of spring, each season brought its own gifts, binding the people to their land with invisible threads of gratitude and love. As the elders spoke, eyes closed, their words created a world where the young walked alongside their forebears. They were transported to fields ablaze with the color of wildflowers, to valleys echoing with the calls of distant birds. Here, distant relatives became tangible, their hands intertwined with the listeners. The murmur of brooks and the sweet scent of blossoms enveloped them, offering solace from the present. In the glow of the fire, the past and present merged into a tapestry woven with care. Each story was a gentle whisper that promised continuity, that declared, "We are here. We have always been here." The ancestral lands were not lost. They lived on in these tales, passed down like treasured heirlooms, each one polished with care. As the last story unfolded, it brought with it the soft cadence of waves lapping along a distant shoreline, a rhythm that mimicked the gentle rise and fall of breathing. It was a reminder of journeys taken long ago, both physical and spiritual, and the journey still to come in dreams and beyond. And so, under the vast canopy of stars that stretched into infinity, the children drifted into peaceful slumber, comforted by the everlasting embrace of their ancestral lands. The fire burned low, casting its warmth like a comforting blanket, holding them close in the echoes of those lands far and near. Through dreams, they would wander those sacred terrains, piecing together the mosaic of their heritage. In sleep, they cradled the whispers of their ancestors, carrying them forward with a promise to keep the stories alive. The past was a gentle touch, a guiding star that led them back to their roots. And in the hushed silence of the night, those echoes lingered, a sweet and enduring serenade of remembrance. In the early days of the American colonies, the fabric of society was woven together from threads spun in distant lands, carried to the New World on the currents of the Atlantic. Enslaved Africans, brought against their will, played a profound and often understated role in shaping this burgeoning society. Their influence permeated through music, language, and food, leaving an indelible mark on the cultural tapestry. Music was one of the most significant conduits of African culture in the colonies. Enslaved people brought with them rich musical traditions that persisted despite attempts to suppress their expression. Work songs, spirituals, and rhythmic beats emerged in fields and plantations, echoing the vibrant and communal musical practices of their homelands. These songs were not just a solace but a subtle means of resistance, weaving messages of hope and resilience amidst adversity. Over time, African musical elements began to intertwine with European styles, laying the groundwork for what would become uniquely American genres such as jazz, blues, and gospel. Language was another significant area of contribution. Enslaved Africans, coming from diverse linguistic backgrounds, found creative ways to communicate, often blending English with their native tongues to create creoles and pidgins. These hybrid languages were rich with metaphor and rhythm, serving both as a means of communication and as a way to sustain their heritage. Elements of African languages seeped into the colonial lexicon, contributing new words, phrases, and expressions that enriched the English language spoken in the colonies. Foodways provided a tangible and delicious expression of cultural exchange. African culinary traditions adapted to the new environment, incorporating available ingredients but retaining distinct flavors and techniques. Okra yams, black-eyed peas, and rice became staples in colonial kitchens, and methods such as slow cooking and frying were adopted into colonial food practices. The result was a fusion cuisine that mixed African, Native American, and European elements, expanding the palate and culinary repertoire of the colonies. Through these subtle yet significant influences, enslaved Africans contributed to an emerging cultural tapestry in the colonies. This interplay of culture laid the foundation for the diverse society that characterizes America today, underscoring a history that, while marked by injustice and struggle, is also adorned with the vibrancy of cultural exchange and creation. Exploring these influences invites a deeper understanding of how past interactions continue to shape the present, offering a peaceful reflection on the progress and potential of human interconnectedness. In the early colonial settlements, the invisible architects, often overlooked and forgotten in history, played a pivotal role in shaping the burgeoning towns and cities. Their contributions, though not recorded in grandiose histories, laid the foundations for infrastructure that would endure for centuries. Amidst the daily bustle of colonial life, these skilled laborers embarked on the monumental task of constructing roads, buildings, and bridges. With each stone carefully placed, each wooden beam expertly erected, they transformed virgin landscapes into thriving hubs of trade and community. Picture, if you will, a serene morning in a colonial town. The faint smell of freshly sawn wood fills the air, accompanied by the rhythmic thud of hammers and the distant murmurs of a town coming to life. These sounds are a testament to the ceaseless work of the invisible architects, whose hands tirelessly crafted the very streets upon which wagons now rumble. Their labor was tireless, spanning from the crack of dawn to the closing embrace of dusk. They wore simple garments, their hands calloused and strong, their faces perpetually shadowed beneath wide, brimmed hats. Yet, despite their vital contributions, these architects rarely stepped into the light of recognition. Instead, their legacy was etched into the structures that stood sturdy against the elements, providing shelter and commerce to generations. Colonial roads, those arteries of connection between towns, bore the signature mark of these artisans. With meticulous precision, they laid cobblestones that facilitated the flow of goods and ideas. The roads stretched like veins across the land, whispering stories of journeys taken and yet to come. Though records may have forgotten their names, their impact resonates through the ages. Each building they constructed housed the aspirations of settlers seeking new beginnings. From well-appointed government buildings to modest family homes, their silent craftsmanship wove a tapestry of stability in a world on the cusp of expansion. In the quiet of the night, when the town lay at rest under a blanket of stars, the invisible architects would sometimes gather among the structures they built. There, with a quiet pride, they could gaze upon the silhouette of a town born from their labor and love. These invisible architects, though unseen, were the pillars upon which cities rose. They shaped the colonial world with an artistry that spoke volumes without words, their legacy enduring in the enduring pillars and paths of stone. Their story, softly recounted, is perfect for those seeking a peaceful slumber, dreaming of roads unfurling through time and histories etched in timber and stone. Under the expansive night sky, a tapestry woven with infinite stars, stories of resilience and unity silently unfold. These tales, once whispered among the southern plantations or sung under the quiet blanket of tropical skies, resonate with the strength and shared experiences of those who endured lives of enslavement. Collectively, they found solace and fleeting happiness in the small, but profound moments of togetherness, their hearts bound by a shared understanding of the night's embrace. As the sun descended and the oppressive weight of the day lifted, the enslaved people would gather, Families torn apart by the cruelty of their circumstances formed new bonds within these nocturnal sanctuaries. The night belonged to them, a space where they could momentarily lay down the burdens of their lives and find an ephemeral freedom. It was under these very stars that tales were exchanged, laughter woven through the air, and sorrows shared, helping in some measure to ease the heavy loads they carried. Songs hummed and softly sung became a language of their own, a means to communicate hope, grief, and endurance. These spirituals, birthed from the depths of yearning, served as a vehicle to preserve their histories, their culture, a connection to the people who came before them, and a promise to those who would come after. Each note soared skyward, intertwining with the celestial bodies above, creating an eternal constellation of stories and spirits united by the night. Even as the shadow of fear and oppression lingered, the night offered a protective cloak. It was under this cover that tales of escape and rebellion were quietly passed on, the stars themselves seeming to nod in agreement with the dreams of freedom. The North Star, a trusted guide, symbolized a path to liberation, a beacon of hope shining resolutely amidst the darkness. Within the embrace of night, elders shared wisdom and recollections of different times and lands. Their words painted vivid pictures of distant homelands, now but a memory, shimmering beneath the same canopy of stars. Children listened closely, eyes wide with wonder, capturing these vibrant legacies to carry within them as a compass throughout their own journeys. The sky, a great equalizer, watched over all, silently assuring with its constancy that despite the cruelty and injustice of their realities, they were not alone. Through shared glances upward, every enslaved individual found a reflection of their own struggles and hopes mirrored in their companions, a profound testament to their unwavering humanity. In these nightly gatherings under the same brilliant stars, an unspoken promise was formed and renewed. Beneath the endless cosmic dance, no lash could reach them. No master could claim these moments. Here was their refuge, a place where peace could for a brief time envelop them, where dreams knitted patterns of a brighter dawn. Thus history, in its peaceful and silent murmuring, stands under the night sky, gently cradling the legacy of those who dared to dream of freedom. Through shared stories and starlight, a quiet, indomitable strength was cultivated, fostering a community defined not by the chains that bound them, but by the shared humanity that lifted their spirits beyond. So every night, as history rests, the stories of resilience continue to breathe, whispered in the winds, dancing among the stars, echoing the enduring spirit of those who once spoke, sang, and dreamt under the same stars. In a time long before written words danced across pages, stories were carried by the voices in the wind, echoing through the vastness of human existence. Oral storytelling was the fabric that wove communities together, a gentle tapestry of culture, history, and identity whispered from one generation to the next. Amidst the rustling of leaves, near crackling fires, elders gathered, their words swirling like smoke into the night sky. Each story a thread, preserving tales of creation, the triumphs and tribulations of ancestors, and the gentle wisdom gleaned from nature itself. These stories were not just entertainment, but the very essence of knowledge, passed in hushed tones that reverberated through millennia. From the vast deserts of Africa to the icy expanses of the Arctic, oral storytelling persisted as a peaceful chronicle of life. In each corner of the world, storytellers became vessels of humanity, their voices a lullaby of history perfect for those seeking solace in sleep. The wind, a compassionate carrier, took their murmurs of legend and myth over mountains and seas, ensuring that no voice remained unheard. In the heart of the ancient indigenous tribes of the Americas, the rhythm of drums accompanied tales of the Great Spirit and the sacred balance of life. As children nestled close to their elders, they learned of the seasons' cycles and the animals' spirits who guided their ancestors. In the serene landscapes of Japan, under the captivating glow of lanterns, storytellers spun yarns of mythical creatures and heroes, imbuing moral lessons wrapped in the delicacies of language. Here, stories took on the form of a gentle current, each tale a breath in the societal understanding of harmony and respect. Far across the European plains, where wild winds swept through forests and valleys, bards and minstrels traveled from village to village. Their tales of chivalry, romance, and epic battles were an oral tapestry, preserving the lineage and stretching the imagination of young and old alike. In the words of these wanderers, the history of humanity flourished, rooted firmly in oral tradition. Among the Aboriginal peoples of Australia, the Dreamtime stories whispered through the wind told of how everything came to be. These narratives, rich in color and spirit, connected the people to the land itself, echoed in every stone, tree, and creature. These voices, carried effortlessly, were ancient markers of humanity, transcending boundaries and binding civilizations in a shared legacy of experience. Through the ages, the persistence of these tales in oral forms allowed them to be shaped and molded, adapting to new listeners while maintaining the core of wisdom and history. In the gentle embrace of storytelling, the past remained alive, breathing in the present and guiding future generations. While pages may crumble and ink may fade, the voices in the wind will always linger, peacefully chronicling the essence of human experience in a way words alone never could. The Resilient Heart chapter delves profoundly into the remarkable resilience of enslaved people, focusing on their innate ability to endure, adapt, and maintain dignity in the face of unspeakable hardship. Throughout history, these individuals demonstrated extraordinary fortitude and adaptability, crafting subtle ways to persevere against the harsh constraints imposed upon their lives. Amidst the enforced silence and oppression, enslaved individuals found means to uphold their dignity. They created a vibrant culture through shared stories, songs, and spirituals that carried hidden messages and provided a sense of community and solidarity. These acts of quiet rebellion and cultural preservation were crucial in maintaining their identity and humanity. Enslaved people's resilience is also evident in their ability to adapt and find innovative means of resistance despite limited resources. They developed skills and trades, creating networks and support systems that enhanced their community's quality of life. These adaptive strategies helped them to not only survive, but also to subtly undermine the system of oppression that sought to dehumanize them. The chapter further explores how, in the face of adversity, enslaved people turned to spiritual and religious practices to find solace and strength. These practices often served as a form of passive resistance, providing a means for them to express their faith and hope for a better future. This spiritual resilience was a cornerstone of their identity, offering them a sense of purpose and direction. Within this context, the narrative underscores the importance of maintaining a peaceful reflection on history, using it as a path to understanding and healing. It suggests that by approaching history with an emphasis on peaceful contemplation, one can gain insights into the resilience and fortitude of those who endured such adversity. In conclusion, The Resilient Heart offers a testament to the unwavering spirit of enslaved people. Their ability to adapt, persevere, and maintain their dignity in spite of the imposed silence is a powerful reminder of the strength of the human spirit. It invites readers to consider the significance of resilience in history, offering a narrative that is perfect for peaceful reflection. In the heart of the colonial period, where vast plantations spread over the landscapes like sprawling tapestries, a different kind of narrative wove itself quietly through the land, composed not only of the endless fields and the agricultural laborers who toiled upon them, but also of the skilled craftspersons and domestic workers who played a vital, albeit often overlooked, role in shaping the colonial economy. Beyond the fields, in quaint workshops and simple homes, artisans practiced their crafts with a dedication that turned raw materials into objects of beauty and utility. These skilled craftspersons, blacksmiths, carpenters, weavers, and potters, among others, were the backbone of the burgeoning economy, their work animated by expertise and artistry that carried traditions from across oceans and melded them into something uniquely suited to the new world. Take the blacksmith, for instance, whose rhythmic hammering echoed in the early morning air, sounding like the heartbeat of a nascent nation. His forge blazed with life, transmuting ore and raw metal into tools that made farming possible, weapons that defended settlements, and household items that brought a semblance of comfort to rugged, frontier homes. In another corner, the weaver sat at her loom, fingers dancing deftly across threads, creating textiles that were not just functional, but resplendent with designs passed down through generations. Her work clothed families and lined homes, colorful threads stitched into the fabric of daily life. Meanwhile, the potter worked with the earth itself, shaping clay with hands worn yet gentle, crafting vessels that held the sustenance of life, grains, water, oil, with an elegance that belied their humble beginnings. each piece a testament to an ancient craft, integral yet often unseen. Then there were the domestic workers, whose contributions lay not within the grand tapestries of history, but in the fine, tightly woven threads of everyday existence. These individuals maintained households, cooked meals, and cared for children, embodying roles that kept the daily operations of life balanced and functioning. In the grand colonial houses, domestic workers moved with practiced grace, their steps a silent accompaniment to the melodies of the household. Their expertise transformed houses into homes, luminous with the aroma of carefully prepared meals, vibrant with the sounds of nurtured children, steadfast with the assurance of stability they provided in a world constantly growing, shifting, redefining itself. The carpenter, skilled with saw and plane, carved from dense forest the timber frames of a new society. Homes and barns, churches, and bridges rose from the land, marking the march of progress, a testament to the craftsman's art. Each role was a brushstroke on the vast canvas of the colonial world, adding depth and richness, ensuring the vibrant colors of culture, expertise, and human endeavor stood visible against the backdrop of history. While the fields lay fallow in the gentle embrace of winter, or flourished under the summer sun, within workshops, homes, and at the hearth, the pulse of a quiet revolution could be felt, a testament to skill and survival. These artisans and domestic workers, though often relegated to footnotes by grand narratives of toil and tilling, were part of an intricate dance. Beyond the fields, they crafted the world not just from materials in hand, but from dreams, heritage, and necessity, intertwining their fates with the broader story of colonial ambition. They are threads that hold together the rich, textured tapestry of history, a reminder that peace and beauty often grow unseen, nurtured away from the fields of more obvious labor. As you drift into slumber, let these tales of skilled craft and quiet domesticity weave through your dreams, painting a world punctuated not by conflict but by collaboration, not by conquest but by creation. In the stillness of night beneath a canopy of stars, the whispers of resistance traveled like a gentle breeze among those who dared to breathe the air of defiance. The story of community in shadows is one of quiet courage, where bonds of trust and kinship threaded through the fabric of an oppressed society, binding spirits together in an indomitable mesh of mutual aid and hope. Here, we shine light on the interconnected networks of communication and support fostered by enslaved individuals, a testament to their fortitude and desire for freedom, even amid the most dire of circumstances, in the hush of the southern plantations, where the rustle of leaves and the soft cries of night creatures blended with the song of ancient pine trees. There lived a community unbroken by the chains they bore. This was a world unseen, hidden from the eyes of their oppressors, a community residing in the shadows, yet vibrant with life and purpose. The enslaved communicated through a language passed down from generation to generation, spoken in hushed tones and coded songs that masked their true meanings. These were songs that spoke of rivers and wings, of liberation and return. They sang under the watchful moon, their voices mingling with the wind as it swept across the fields. The songs were a tapestry of messages, woven with care, speaking of meeting places, of plans, and of solidarities forged in secrecy. This community, though bound by physical constraints, held a power that transcended the corporeal. They met under the guise of darkness in wooded groves and by the banks of flowing streams. Here, they shared their stories and dreams, their hopes for a life beyond bondage. The natural world became their ally and their refuge, a world that held no prejudice, that whispered its own tales of endurance and survival. The trees, grand and ancient, stood as silent sentinels, witnessing the creation of a sanctuary born of human connection. Elders within this community served as the custodians of wisdom, their knowledge a delicate thread stitching the present to the past. They spoke of ancestral lands and cultures, sharing tales that stirred the imaginations of the young. These stories were more than just memories. They were seeds of identity, nurturing a sense of belonging amidst displacement. Women held a unique place in this clandestine society. In their hands, they bore the torch of continuity, teaching children the values of cooperation, resilience, and love even while enveloped by an atmosphere of cruelty. Their songs, sung to lull infants to sleep, were laden with gentle promises of brighter days, a secret assurance that, despite the shadows, there was a path toward the light. The rhythms of work became a device of coordination, a synchrony that belied a deeper communication. Picking in the fields, pounding grain, or weaving cloth, these daily tasks became rituals of resistance. Embedded in the beats were signals shared among those who understood, a pause, a change in pattern, a glance shared over bent backs. Indeed, within this community, no role was small. Every individual contributed to the clandestine web of resistance. Storytellers wove sagas of courage, inspiring a collective spirit. Artisans crafted tools and tokens, embedding within them the strength and artistry of their intentions. Leaders, unnamed yet revered, guided from the shadows, their vision clear even when their way was obscured. Their gatherings, infused with the essence of life's quiet rebellion, were carefully planned and more precious for their rarity. Rituals emerged, folding into themselves aspects of the old and new worlds, combining spirituality with an unspoken pact of protection and unity. The beating heart of this community lay in its ability to adapt and sustain, finding strength in the interdependence of its members. Such resilience did not go unnoticed. Even under the veils of secrecy, the whisper of this unity reached others struggling under similar yokes. Encouraged by the centered solidarity they witnessed, the story of this community inspired others to foster their own networks of trust and kinship, a beacon in the night, lighting the path toward collective empowerment. In the warmth of fellowship, hidden from the overseers who slept soundly in their ignorance of the true strength of a people unbowed, the community thrived. They were like the night, quiet, pervasive, stretching their arms wide across the lands. In their dreams were images of unfettered skies and boundless fields. In their hearts resided the unyielding spirit of freedom. So, when the morning light broke, and the world awoke to its routines, it carried within it a quiet promise, a promise rooted in the clandestine gestures of kindness and courage that these communities had nurtured in their time of darkness. And while the sun's harsh glare might obscure the paths forged in the night, the shadows held their own power, the power of a community whose spirit no force could break. This story lives on, a testament to resilience and unity, a soft lullaby to the souls who came together, cradled in the shadows yet reaching for the dawn. In the quiet corners of history, soft defiance has often emerged under the heavy blanket of authority. These are not the stories of grand revolutions or resounding victories, but rather the gentle whispers of resilience and persistence, the barely audible footsteps of those who stood firm in the face of great domineering forces. The village of Perinia was nestled among rolling hills and lush fields, where the sky was an endless expanse of blue in the day and a blanket of shimmering stars at night. In this peaceful hamlet, perhaps much like many others that dot the pages of forgotten chronicles, the residents carried on their routines under the watchful eyes of the imperial forces, who claimed dominion over the land. There was a certain corner of Perinia, by the old well, where stories were exchanged more freely, where the air was thick with the scent of freshly baked bread, mingling with whispered words. Here, the village elder, Darius, would often linger, his presence a comforting reminder of the past, and a nod to the unseen threads that tied the community together. Darius was known not for bold assertions of rebellion, but for his quiet wisdom, manifested in his nurturing of memories and traditions that were gently defiant against the pressures to conform to the ruling regime's ways. On afternoons when the sun hovered lazily in the sky, casting long shadows over the cobblestone paths, Darius would tell tales, stories of old, passed down through generations that kept the rich heritage of Perinia alive. The imperial decree had been absolute in its intent to homogenize the cultural practices of the communities under its rule. Festivals unique to regions were banned unless they adhered to the newly set standards that erased any singular identity. But in Perinia, festivals took on a quiet duality. On the surface, they appeared compliant with flags and symbols prescribed by the authorities, but beneath, in the rhythms of the music and the recipes of the feasts, the soul of Perinia danced wild and free, just as it had for centuries. One such festival, the Night of Lanterns, celebrated under the guise of an imperial, sanctioned event, was the epitome of such quiet rebellion. By the riverbank, little boats made from leaves, each bearing a small candle, were released to float downstream. Though this act had been modified to include required rituals, the core of it remained untouched. A symbolic reminder of the spirits of old flowing onward, unquestioned and unchallenged by any outside force. The village potter Alara, had a quietly subversive streak that threaded through her life, much like the groove pressed into her pottery. In her hands, the clay spun tales. Cups and vases that from a distance appeared to follow the mandated designs held intricate patterns that, upon closer inspection, revealed hints of ancient symbols and motifs, relics of a time when the land had its own language, not written or spoken, but artistically articulated. Patrons from the city would often praise Elera's skill in conforming to the regime's styles, unaware that they were drinking from vessels that whispered stories of a free past. Her kiln was a forge of quiet resistance, and her hands worked magic that often brought discerning smiles to the faces of those who knew. Children in Perinia learned these gestures of defiance as naturally as they learned the steps of a dance. A game known as Steps in Silence was played from sunset to dusk, a playful exercise in evasion and stealth. On the surface, it was innocent enough, a game that sharpened their wit and agility. But it was also an exercise of resilience, where they learned to navigate spaces unnoticed, a skill passed down from days when such abilities were necessary for survival under watchful eyes. In the harvest field, workers wore an indistinguishable uniform mandated by the overseers to signify unity under the empire's labor laws. Yet beneath those clothes, over their hearts, they carried small charm bags, amulets made by the village herbalists, each filled with dried petals and herbs that their ancestors had used for protection. These kept the workers tied to their roots and shielded them with a legacy that could not be stripped away. The village herbalists themselves were a subtle force of nature, their knowledge of plants preserved spiritedly, even as the rulers sought to replace local practices with approved herbal texts. They retained their crafts under the guise of compliance, exchanging knowing glances and carefully encrypted recipes, passed along in riddles and rhymes. At the village market, laughter and bartering ensued, and amidst the muffled clamor, the traders often communicated in a language of subtle signals. A tilt of the head, a raised eyebrow, a seemingly innocuous phrase to gauge trust. This language allowed them to share concerns, support one another, and remain informed in the shadow of full surveillance without raising suspicion. The stories of Perinia were not tales of overt rebellion, but rather a saga of gentle resistance. Each person played their part, weaving a tapestry of quiet defiance through subtle actions and small, yet impactful choices. Through the generations, as walls crumbled and empires withdrew, the stories of Perinia's steadfastness continued to echo, written not in grand epics, but in small, enduring deeds that preserved the spirit of its people, long after the last marching footsteps faded across its hills. Amid those rolling landscapes and under those starry nights, it was in these faint traces of defiance where Perinia found its strength, the strength to remain true to itself, serenely patient and unwavering, perfect in its serenity. Thus, Perinia whispered softly through history, a lullaby of resilience. In ancient days, when the world was young and full of wonder, rivers were the lifeblood of burgeoning settlements. They wound their way through valleys, carving out paths between mountains and turning arid lands into lush, fertile plains. The tales carried by these waterways were as bountiful as the fish that swam in their currents, mesmerizing those who settled on their banks. Rivers became the silent witnesses to the dreams and longings of people, etching these stories onto the very landscapes they nourished. Along the mighty Nile, life thrived in a desert that thirsted for water. This river, with its sacred cycles of inundation, sustained the birth of a civilization. Egyptian settlements sprung up along its banks, and in its flowing waters they saw the essence of time itself, a continuum of life, death, and rebirth. Much like the journey of the soul toward the afterlife, stories told by the people of these lands were embedded with the magic of the river. Fishermen sang hymns of gratitude, basking in the abundance it provided. Artisans sculpted their marvels in stone, depicting pharaohs as god-kings who commanded both the lands and the waters around them. The Nile whispered stories through the rushes, where reeds swayed in time with the river's flow. Here, it is said that the infant Moses was found, floating gently past the eyes of beings both human and divine. In Greek retellings, the river Nile itself watched over this child, knowing he would grow to lead his people to freedom. Such was the power of the river's mythic current that it became a part of many tales, transcending generations and cultures. Further east, the waters of the Tigris and Euphrates nurtured the gardens of Babylon. These rivers, like twin serpents, meandered through lands revered by both rulers and gods. They were the cradle of civilization, supporting orchards that bore fruit within arm's reach of the grand ziggurats. Scholars spoke of the stars, reflecting on the liquid mirrors of the rivers below, while travelers caravanned along these banks, exchanging tales and goods. In the land of Mesopotamia, stories of floods carried with them the echoes of human survival and resilience. Myths of Gilgamesh, the ancient king of Uruk, spoke of divine quests and the terrifying might of nature when the rivers rose. Yet from these deluges came the heart of stories, the theme of redemption and renewal, a reflection of the cycles perpetuated by these grand waterways. The rivers were seen as both a blessing and a reminder of the humility required to live harmoniously with nature. To the west, the tranquil Rhone River wove its path through the lands where Gauls would one day reside. Here, the Celts crafted tales imbued with mysticism, where water spirits inhabited every brook and stream. The Rhone served as a guidepost for travelers, and its gentle current carried the songs of druids. These ancient poets spoke of heroes and intricate tapestries of fate, all while the river watched as time rippled through the ages. In the distant lands of the Americas, the mighty Amazon became a river of dreams. The indigenous tribes who called this verdant forest their home lived symbiotically with it, crafting tales that spoke of unseen entities living in perfect harmony with the flow. The Amazon's tributaries were likened to veins coursing through one's body, breathing life into both the jungle and the spirit. As explorers ventured deeper into these realms, they gathered stories like one would find treasure. They heard of the enigmatic El Dorado, a city of gold said to shimmer from the depths of the jungle, surrounded by an abundance provided by the river. Such tales inspired countless quests, filling pages with narratives that blurred the line between myth and reality. Indeed, with each trip along these waterways, dreams, fears, and hopes flowed freely, shaping the settlements who came to depend on them. The Yamuna and Ganges in India bore witness to empires rising and falling. Pilgrims believed that these rivers infused their waters with purity and divinity, offering stories of sin washed away and souls regenerated. Sacred rituals drew multitudes to their banks, where narratives of devotion and renewal mingled with the babbling current. In their quiet, steady manner, rivers molded the lands around them. They held within their depths tales of love and loss, heroes and gods, and the ever-present yearning for peace and belonging. As rivers continued to flow unabated, the stories they carried left an enduring mark, connecting humanity across time and space. In their patient way, these rivers taught us that life itself is a series of flows and ebbs, each with its own story to tell and lesson to impart. In the gentle sway of time's currents, we find the echoes of countless generations, each life a droplet in a vast ocean, contributing ever so subtly to the immense tides of society's evolution. For those who endured the shackles of enslavement, their stories weave through history, each thread contributing to the tapestry of change that unfolded slowly, yet inevitably. In the whispered silence of the nights, under cloaked skies adorned with a myriad of stars, the enslaved would gather. Beneath the watchful eyes of an older moon, they shared stories, keeping alive the ancestral wisdom and eternal hope for freedom. Though their bodies were bound, their spirits flowed with the currents of time undeterred. These gatherings, seemingly mundane moments, held a kernel of power. Within them, the seeds of future awakenings were sown. For every footfall on the soil, every seed planted in borrowed land, a small act of resistance bloomed. Such deeds were not grand or dramatic. They were the quiet resilience of survival. And as night turned to dawn, these moments fused with the endless cycles of days and years, patiently contributing to gradual shifts in the societal fabric. Each generation witnessed new trials and small victories, carrying forward the torch of quiet defiance. In these gentle currents of time, change was a subtle whisper more than a resounding shout. It was the unnoticed erosion of prejudice, the slow seep of enlightenment through the cracks of ignorance. With each passing era, new minds were opened to the absurdity of oppression. New voices joined the call for justice. The enslaved, through their persistent existence, illuminated the humanity all shared, presenting undeniable truths that even the staunchest adversaries could not ignore forever. And so it was time itself became an ally, a gentle sculptor of hearts, chipping away at the fortress of inhumanity, revealing the soft underbelly of compassion and reason. Each subsequent generation, standing on the shoulders of those shackled before them, pushed a little further. Steps toward freedom were measured in years, decades, even centuries, but they were steps nonetheless. Look closely at the stories of history and see how they sleepily interlace with the present. The once faint murmurs of the enslaved have woven into the narrative of human progression. Their contributions are indelible strokes across the canvas of civilization, shaping the contours of modern society. These tales wind on, much like rivers flowing inexorably toward the sea. They may bend and turn, momentarily stilled, but they are perpetual and brimming with life. Reflecting upon this lineage, one realizes there is peace in knowing that no moment passes in vain. Each breath, each heartbeat adds to the continuum of history, ever altering its course, however gently. And so history drifts on, a perfect lullaby for those who seek the serenity of quiet reflection, understanding that though the fight was long, it has borne its fruit. A peaceful mind sees that within the relentless passage of time, the human spirit endures and aspires steadfastly toward a more just world, however softly, however slowly. In the quiet shadows of history lies a narrative often passed over, overshadowed by grand tales of heroes, wars, and conquests. Yet the enduring legacy of civilizations, seen in the crafts and artifacts they left behind, offers a glimpse into the lives of those whose skills turned raw materials into wonders. These were the quiet artisans, the craftsmen and craftswomen, many of whom labored under coercion, their stories woven into the fabric of history, albeit quietly. From the ancient cradles of civilization, the Meds, the Hurrians, to the full grandeur of Egyptian and Mesopotamian empires, the footprint of artisans who thrived and suffered can be seen in remnants found in tombs and ruins. These skilled laborers, often overshadowed, played critical roles in projecting the power and culture of their societies. Consider the art of weaving, an essential craft that dates back thousands of years. Weaving goes beyond mere cloth creation. It was a storytelling medium, a vehicle for cultural narratives passed down through generations. Each hand-woven fabric, whether linen, wool, or cotton, offered insights into the daily life, beliefs, and hierarchy within a society. In Egypt, weavers, often women, were both slaves and free workers. Whether enslaved or paid, their work underpinned the economic engine of dynasties, dressing not only their people but also crafting ornate tapestries that showcased mythos and triumph. In regions across the world, like the Andean civilizations, the mastery of loom and dye became a form of identity, the patterns and colors serving as symbols of lineage and affiliation. Yet, it wasn't just the peaceful task of clothing that wove the fates of these artisans, but the forced labor regimes of conquering empires seeking to exploit their skills for grandeur and economy. Ceramic work is yet another testament to the legacy left by craftspeople enslaved or bound by duty. Pottery fragments found in excavation sites from China to the Mediterranean whisper tales of artistry and innovation. Every pot, amphora, or shard tells its story of utility and artistry, showcasing techniques honed by unnamed hands over lifetimes. In ancient Rome, for instance, pottery was as much a trade as a craft. Glazed with intricate designs, these pieces served both practical and decorative purposes in Roman households. In sub-Saharan Africa, where oral traditions run rich, stories of pottery making compare to oral epic poetry, extolling the figures who lent their skills to creating water vessels and cooking pots that sustained daily life. These artisans, too, lived complexities of free and forced labor dynamics. They were integral to the markets that facilitated trade and interaction between tribes and later colonial powers. The skilled labor of metalworkers also forged the paths of empires. Blacksmiths were valuable for their ability to transform ore into weapons, tools, and currency. This specialized skill set not only afforded them special status in some cultures, but likewise bound them in servitude's chains in others. In the great kingdom of Mali, as in the Ottoman and Mughal empires, blacksmithing carried associations of power and magic as their work indeed changed the world around them. Architectural beauty, too, is traced back to the enslaved artisans who, under duress, constructed edifices that continue to captivate the modern world. Some, like the limestone workers of the Great Pyramid, may have been honored artisans. Others, forcibly removed from their lands, poured their skills into structures that would come to symbolize the greatness of civilizations they had no volition to support. The labor of these craftspeople, therefore, was more than mere act of creation. It was a declaration of resilience and identity. Even as conquerors wrote their own stories across history, the undeniable presence of these artisans spoke through the finer fabric of their culture and achievements. Therefore, while the famous names and events may predominate the pages of history books, the quiet artisans sit subtly beneath, threading together a tapestry of life and society that offers peaceful reflections. Their artifacts, wrought through toil, embody aesthetic beauty and the legacy of cultures that have left an indelible mark on the world. Thus, as you drift into quiet slumber, imagine a world where stories are discovered through the hands that shaped them, where every meticulously crafted piece holds whispers of those who quietly but irrevocably forged history. In the tranquil corners of history, where the grand narratives of conquests and kings yield to the softer echoes of everyday lives, the silent footprints offer a unique glimpse into the lives of those unknown builders of nations whose legacies linger in whispers rather than shouts. Here, in this serene exploration, we delve into the influence of these unseen workers on language and local dialects, integral in weaving the social and cultural tapestry of the past. The journey begins in the Fertile Crescent of Mesopotamia, where the fledgling strokes of cuneiform script set the foundation for language as we know it. It was within these scribes' silent spaces that the artistry of language began to flourish, giving silent witnesses room to introduce words and phrases absorbed into the everyday parlance of ancient Akkad and Sumer. This was a region where timbers and clay merged with the hum of life, giving rivers, creating a lush stage for cultural interactions that enriched local dialects over the years. To the west, in the lyrical embrace of ancient Greece and its magnificent city-states, the dialogue turned melodious with influences carried over by traders and craftspeople, the unwritten conversations of the port and the marketplace. Here, the looming strength of the Parthenon finds its counterpart in the tales of Athenian women traders introducing words from the East to describe new silks and spices, embroidering the Greek language with vivid, exotic threads. As we shift northward to the cobbled markets of old Saxon England, we find traces of the Norsemen's silent impact. Seamlessly, their tongue mingled with Anglo-Saxon, leaving behind a composite language testament to their presence. In these unassuming villages, every brook and grove bore witness to soft, spoken exchanges that glossed over bludgeoned axes, carving out new words through peaceful cultivation and craft. In distant sub-Saharan Africa, along trade routes traversed by committed merchants, silent exchanges dotted with words of Bantu origin became embedded into the consciousness of the region. This vast terrain echoes the forgotten passages of communication between ancestral tribes and migrating wanderers, who through harmony morphed language into defined dialects that still reverberate today. Journeying further east into the lands of the Celestial Empire, where vast projects such as the Great Wall of China called for silent labor on a massive scale, whispers of the builders from varied backgrounds fashioning the early Mandarin dialects reflect a history of linguists and artisans imbuing the language with soft influences. These whispers became imprints on the stone that subsequently formed a unified language spanning dynasties and nurturing a civilization's continuity. Continuing through these chapters of peaceful weaving of language, the Indian subcontinent presents a panorama where the ancient silk routes and maritime traders unveiled languages and dialects lush with borrowed words. Merchants, philosophers, and travelers collaborated in this expansive arena, imparting Sanskrit its philosophical depth and imbuing Dravidian dialects with northern Shivam influences. Over the American continent in its pre-Columbian tapestry, the indigenous tribes such as the Incas and the Mayans left a silent mark through oral traditions filled with the natural cadence of the Andes and dense forests. These stories, passed down without scripts, seeded the eventual emergence of rich languages, testimonies to structured yet tranquil exchanges. In each whisper, in every soft, spoken exchange, the silent footprints left marks far more enduring than empires built through conquest or monarchs commanding throngs. Language becomes the tapestry of history's unsung artisans, binding together people and places in a symphony of words spun across time. As we lay aside our pens at night, it is these whispers of history's gentlest spirits that weave softly into our thoughts, offering a soothing respite. Thus, in the embrace of these hidden paths, linguistics becomes a hallowed space where the distant voices resonate with simplicity and grace, guiding generations through veils of time into tranquil slumber, as language holds our hands through the serenity of sleep. In the shadowy recesses of the past, there were moments of stillness and unity among the enslaved. It is within these rare gatherings that truth, strength, and a semblance of freedom were shared. Away from the prying eyes of those who sought to keep them in bondage, they whispered their fears, hopes, and dreams. Under the canopy of ancient trees, when the dusk painted the sky with hues of purple and orange, voices mingled in the night air. It was during these illicit gatherings that the enslaved recounted the tales of their ancestors and passed down the knowledge that would guide them through the darkest times. The elders, with eyes that had seen too much, spoke in hushed tones about lands far beyond the horizon, lands where their spirits roamed free. The cool whispering breezes carried the words of old songs, sung softly yet passionately by those who dared to dream. "We shall overcome," they would sing, as the moonlight danced between the leaves, casting shadows like spirits joining in the chorus. Each song was a tapestry woven with threads of hope, resistance, and the shared resilience that fortified their souls. Those who gathered understood the peril that surrounded them. Yet, there was a liberating power in the act of coming together, even for a stolen moment. They spoke of survival in the future, of revolts long past and yet to come, whispered plans for safe passage, through networks silently constructed, were shared with those brave enough to seek a new dawn beyond captivity. Wisdom passed from lips to eager ears, the art of reading the skies, the secrets of medicinal herbs hidden in plain sight, the spiritual songs that carried them through fields and into the night, each note a cry for freedom. These clandestine meetings strengthened the bonds of kinship and sustained a culture under siege, telling stories of resistance, resilience, and humanity. In their rare moments of togetherness, the enslaved people found solace and strength that proved vital to enduring unimaginable hardships. It was within these hidden gatherings that they steeled their spirits against the cruelty and dehumanization they faced. Here, within their collective embrace, resistance took root, not just in planned escape or revolt, but in the defiant determination to survive and retain their human dignity. With the stars as their witness, they clung to each word spoken, each hand held, and each heart silent vow to persevere. It was in these moments, as they gathered their voices in shared humanity, that they sowed the seeds of courage and faith that would blossom into eventual freedom. As history gently whispers these stories across the ages, may we listen and honor the gatherings that fortified body and spirit, and reflect on the indomitable spirit of those who, even in the darkest of times, dreamed of liberation and light. Let these tales be told gently, a lullaby that sings of hope, wisdom, and the unyielding beat of human hearts in unison. In a quiet corner of history, nestled between the folds of grander tales, lies a story of silent strength and whispered aspirations, a story of hope carried on the gentlest of breezes. In an age where grand narratives often overshadowed the subtleties of human resilience, there existed communities harboring dreams for a life beyond the limitations imposed by their station or circumstances. These were dreams not of grandeur but of a simple freedom, quietly nurtured away from the glaring eyes of the world. Life in these communities flowed like a tranquil river, its undercurrents often hidden beneath the surface. The spirit of hope, too, traveled beneath, guiding individuals toward visions of a life that could be rather than what was. Within this tapestry, hope found its way through murmured prayers and the occasional stolen moment where eyes met across a crowded room in an understanding that required no words. Here, in the light that played upon the walls of humble abodes, people whispered tales of resilience, stories inherited from ancestors who had faced storms yet never lost sight of the horizon. It was these stories that kept alive the notion that better times might just be around the corner, if one dared to dream and believe. Simple acts became symbols of resistance, and resilience as songs sung softly around the hearth, each chord a thread woven into the fabric of a hopeful future. Crafts passed down through generations, each pattern a testament to the persistence of culture and identity through the trials of time. Hope lingered not only in dreams for personal freedom, but also in broader aspirations for communal harmony and prosperity. Fields tended with care became emblematic of a future, where the fruits of labor were shared equitably, each harvest season a chapter in a collective narrative underscored by shared purpose and mutual support. The changing seasons, predictable yet subject to the whims of nature, offered metaphors for the cycles of life and the enduring spirit of human perseverance. The whispers of hope could also be heard in conversations held under starlit skies, away from the demands of the day. In the quiet of the night, when the world seemed to exhale and pause, people would gather, if only in pairs or threes, and discuss the possibilities of change. Here, new ideas took root, nurtured by anticipation and the occasional spark of opportunity. These were moments where time seemed to bend, allowing glimpses into futures where unity and empathy were not just ideals but realities. At the heart of these communities was an understanding that while dreams could provide solace, action was necessary to manifest them into tangible change. Plans were whispered in corners, formulated with caution yet bolstered by a shared determination. Each step taken, however small, was a testament to the enduring human spirit that refused to settle for a static existence. Whether through acts of compassion or small rebellions against the status quo, these communities moved carefully toward a horizon painted with their aspirations. Hope in these lives was not a grand gesture but a steady flame, passed from one generation to the next. It flickered steadily, illuminating paths forward even when shadows seemed insurmountable. While history may remember these periods as peaceful breaths within the tumultuous ebb and flow of time, the true power lay in the quiet resolve of those who dared to envision more. More kindness, more understanding, more freedom. The story of hope is thus woven quietly into the annals of history, a persistent stream supporting those who dared to look beyond immediate constraints and dream of a time when potential would unfold unfettered, like a bird taking to the open sky. The past offers comfort and inspiration, a lullaby of sorts for the dreamers and doers of tomorrow, inviting restful contemplation under the watchful canopy of stars. And so hope persists quietly, for in its quietude lies the strength of 1,000 voices believing in a brighter dawn. In the gentle cradle of history, where the ceaseless waves of time wash over the complexities of human interaction, there lies the intricate tapestry of cultural exchanges between Africans and Europeans during the colonial era. These interactions, though subtle and intricate, quietly wove a fabric of shared experiences, misunderstood intentions, and mutual influences that shaped the colonial societies in nuanced ways. The air is calm, the stories unfold with the soothing cadence of a lullaby, inviting restful contemplation and serene slumber. Imagine, if you will, the serene landscape of West African savannas, where the golden sun dips beneath the horizon, casting long shadows over the bustling markets and tranquil villages. It is here that European traders, drawn by the allure of commerce and prosperity, first set foot. These Europeans, with their strange garb and peculiar tongues, were both guests and merchants, arriving with ships laden with textiles, metal wares, and other commodities. The Africans, masters of hospitality and trade, welcomed these visitors with a mix of curiosity and caution. The markets became vibrant arenas of cultural exchange, where goods were traded in languages. Both local and foreign danced together. The African market, a symphony of life, echoed with voices speaking in local dialects, mingled with the hesitant phrases of European languages. It was a performance of translation, where every word was an invitation to understand and be understood. Yet, in the midst of this lively interaction, lay the gentle friction of misinterpretation. Imagine a simple exchange over a bolt of cloth. The European trader, relying on gestures and fragmented vocabulary, attempts to convey the quality and price. The African merchant, understanding partially but well, versed in the art of bargaining, responds with an offer. The dance of negotiation unfolds under the watchful eyes of onlookers, each side hoping their message is accurately conveyed, yet quietly aware of the misunderstandings that hide in the folds of language. Despite these disconnects, or perhaps because of them, new expressions and words seep into local dialects, paving the way for a gradual blending of cultures. These moments, gentle exchanges that they were, silently influenced the fabric of colonial society. The infusion of European goods into African markets not only modified economic practices, but also led to shifts in social structures. Cloths of foreign fabric began to intertwine with traditional attire, creating a new sartorial language that spoke of a fusion of identities. The subtlety of these changes often went unnoticed amidst the larger, more obvious transformations, yet they whispered of a shared destiny woven from threads of misunderstanding and mutual adaptation. As we stray further from the marketplace, we envision the tranquil countryside where European missionaries, driven by the noble goal of spreading faith, built missions and schools. They approached the vast and diverse spiritual landscape of Africa with earnest intentions, their hearts guided by the desire for connection. However, within this noble pursuit lay the seeds of misinterpretation. Upon encountering the rich spiritual traditions of African societies, with their pantheon of deities and ancestral spirits, the missionaries found themselves navigating unfamiliar terrain. Their attempts to evangelize were met, at times, with bemusement and at other times with open-hearted acceptance. Still, it was in the translation of sacred texts where the nuanced dance of misunderstanding became evident. Concepts that were foundational in European religious thought were not easily translatable, and the missionaries endeavored to find common ground, using local allegories and symbols. In these peaceful exchanges, where faith was shared and explored, a quiet transformation took place. African spiritual landscapes began to evolve, incorporating elements of Christian doctrine into their rich tapestry, while simultaneously offering the missionaries insights into their own faith. These subtle shifts nurtured a spiritual syncretism, a gentle blending of beliefs that enriched and expanded the cultural lexicon of colonial societies. Yet, amidst these peaceful exchanges, there were undercurrents of tension and resistance, manifesting in ways as gentle as the rustling of leaves in a breeze. Some communities embraced the newcomers' ideas, guiding them to fit within their own cosmologies, while others, perhaps wary of losing their cultural heritage, approached these interactions with a quiet resilience. Beyond the realms of commerce and faith, education emerged as a crucial bridge for communication and understanding. The tranquil hum of classrooms echoed throughout colonial outposts, where African students and European teachers engaged in the gentle exchange of knowledge. The introduction of European educational systems provided new avenues for intellectual growth, opening doors to broader spheres of influence and thought. Yet, here too, lay the quiet complexity of cultural exchange. The curriculum, designed to reflect European ideals and practices, often overlooked the richness of local knowledge and traditions. In these classrooms, young African minds absorbed lessons in foreign histories and literatures. Yet beneath this surface lay a yearning for the inclusion of their own stories and achievements. The quiet protest of students eager to reconcile these two worlds sparked a creative fusion, birthing new narratives that straddled diverse histories and experiences. As these educational exchanges unfolded, they subtly transformed colonial societies. A new generation emerged, one that carried within it the seeds of duality, the ability to navigate both European and African worlds with grace. This new breed of thinkers and leaders quietly influenced colonial policies and practices, weaving a new pattern into the social fabric that spoke of unity born from diversity. While the overarching narrative of colonial history is often portrayed in bold strokes of conflict and conquest, the subtle threads of peaceful cultural exchange paint a different picture, one rich with the hues of mutual curiosity, adaptation, and understanding. As with all stories, these exchanges between Africans and Europeans were not without their challenges and misunderstandings, yet it is in their gentle negotiation that we find the true essence of human connection. In these dreams of history, we are lulled by the soft whisper of traders in bustling markets, the hushed voices of missionaries sharing parables, and the gentle rustle of students turning pages in chalk-dusted classrooms. Here, in this serene landscape of shared experience, we find not only a deeper understanding of the past, but also a tranquil lullaby that promises restful slumber and peaceful dreams. Unwritten Legacies, a reflection on history's silent architects. In the tranquil corridors of Time's museum, whispers of unsung moments trace the walls, echoing stories untold, tucked within the delicate threads of the tapestry woven by lives imperfectly recorded. These are the stories of the early enslaved people, whose contributions and struggles were often blurred by the shadows of historical oversight, yet left indelible marks on the pages of time. Imagine a scene not from a bustling marketplace or grandiose palace, but from the quietude of early dawns and dimly lit corners where the unseen hands shape society's sinews. The world, divided by wooden fences and earth-toned miles, bore witness to lives lived in whispers, a nuanced existence forcing us to imagine crescendos in hushed tones. The sun casts an indiscriminating gaze upon all landscapes, lavish fields where cotton blossoms like white stars against a sanguine sky, and narrow alleyways where bricks breathe stories of those who patiently laid them. These people rose before the sun, their hearts carrying the weight of history's unwritten, their hands transforming raw earth into a cradle of burgeoning civilization. In southern plantations, where Spanish moss draped ominously over knobbed branches, fields stretched endlessly, their fates unbound by the margins that attempted to constrain their spirits. From sunrise to sunset, men and women diligently toiled, cultivating not just crops of cotton and tobacco, but laying the foundation for a resilient culture, embedded with resilience and strength. The echo of their songs floats gently on the breeze like sacred psalms, setting a rhythmic pace to the drudgery of labor, carving melody where words dared not follow. Yet, it wasn't only in the fields that these unwritten legacies thrived. The contributions of enslaved artisans, architects of not just edifices but of the very soul of society, attest to a mastery of skill and artistry. These craftsmen, seldom named in the annals of history, etched their mark in every banister carved, every nail driven, every doorway arched. In their hands, ordinary wood and simple stone transformed into vessels of the extraordinary, echoing their silent worship and undying hope. Within the cacophony of forgotten voices, women's echoes ring with a distinctive cadence, nurturing traditions through food and healing. In kitchen quarters far removed from the opulence of manor houses, these guardians of heritage infused simple rations with flavors of their homeland, preserving cultural memories with each savory bite. Healing hands, armed with herbal knowledge passed in whispers and nods, mended the weary bodies, manifesting their reverence for life within the realms of restrained circumstance. Cities that flourished owe their growth to the industrious ingenuity found in the nimble fingers of those who built them. As reedwood scaffolding ascended, anonymous hands laid bricks with unfathomable precision, tracing unseen maps of human endurance. Communities burgeoned, their structural bones legitimized not merely by architectural fidelity, but by the indefatigable spirit of those who shared a common, unyielding hope. Even amidst the palpable silence in places recorded more in folklore than fact, subtle nuances manifest in the inseparable intersection of survival and humanity. Unresolved narratives persist, saturating peaceful dreams with an inharmonious nostalgia, a quiet rebellion that demands appreciation for the soft, orchestrated symphony of experience woven together by countless nameless composers. Despite their absence on paper, they are present, in pottery shards sculpted with intent, in silent melodies that found their voices against earthy backdrops. And yes, the efforts of many who laid foundations with untalented brilliance result in cities standing as testaments to the untold, unyielding truth, their courage constructing our collective consciousness. As the heart beats in slumber's embrace, this peaceful history becomes a nurturing lullaby, an invitation to dream of freedom yet to come, of stories yet to be penned, and of legacies continuously written in the ink of unwritten lives. These are the stories cradled in the warmth of ages past, bound not by the hollowness of words, but by the weight of their potent echo. The obliging silence nurtures an eternal homage. The tribute of reflection belongs not merely to monuments erected, but to the profound permanence of willing spirits. Thus, in history's peaceful contemplation, one finds a sanctuary where the legacies unspoken still speak, a serenade deftly accompanying the sleeper to realms forgotten, yet wholly felt. Here, in this serene interplay of grace and endurance, wherein rests the heart's whispered devotion, history remains. And just as the sun, with its frantic list of hues, settles into dusk, the peace of unwritten legacies comforts, cradling one to a realm where slumber's embrace is met with melodies of remembrance softly played in unison, a perpetual song unwritten, yet eternally sung. In the quaint village of Historia, nestled quietly between mountains woven with streams, there existed a place unlike any other. The townsfolk seemed to move through life as if carried on a gentle breeze. Their stories, passed down through the ages, combined to create a rich, symphonic narrative that transcended written history and resonated through time. Each evening, the village vibrated with the soft hum of collective memory. Around the hearths and under the twilight sky, elders shared tales of peace, harmony, and the gentle flow of days that lulled listeners into the dreamlike realm of history. 1. The tale of the brook. Amidst this quiet lane, there was an ancient brook that flowed faithfully, reflecting the sun's golden hues. It was said to whisper tales of old heroes who once listened to its secrets, The brook spoke of serene landscapes and civilizations that thrived, cradled by undisturbed peace. The echoes of their tranquil lives mingled with the water's murmurs, as each ripple carried forward memories of gentle rains and laughter-filled fields. Villagers, drawn by its melody, often sat by its banks, feeling the world slow to a rhythmic peace. To the dreaming fields, beyond the brook lay fields that stretched towards the horizon like an undulating sea of green. Here, history's echoes spoke of hands that tilled the earth with hope and gratitude. The fields were said to cradle the dreams of farmers, who walked in harmony with the seasons, guided by the stars. The sunlit rustle of wheat and barley brought forth stories of abundant harvests, shared toil, and communal feasts that strengthened the bonds of the villagers. These fields witnessed centuries of harmony, each season marked by rejoicing rather than conflict, creating a legacy of unity through its fertile soil. 3. The whispering grove, secluded by an ancient grove of whispering pines, where the wind wove songs through needle-laden branches, was a sacred space for reflection and peace. Here the past spoke softly of moments of introspection, where wise ones sought solace and found connection with something greater than themselves. Shadows danced gently amidst the dappled sunlight, leaving patterns of serenity upon the forest floor. The grove stood as a testament to time's gentle embrace, and its tales reminded all of life's seamless continuity and placid passage. 4. The hearth of unity in the center of the village stood the great hall, its hearth burning brightly through the endless hours, casting warmth and light. It was a place where all stories gathered, individual and collective tales blended into a harmonious pattern, binding the village in one shared heartbeat. Within its stone walls, histories unfolded with each telling, spoken in quiet, rhythmic tones that calmed any troubled mind. The hearth symbolized unity through its ever-warm flames, an ever-present glow that linked the villagers to their past, sustaining them into the future. Throughout this symphony of echoes, Historia was a living entity unto itself, a seamless narrative woven from the fabric of every villager's tale. It transcended time, resonating with ripples of history that stretched beyond words and pages, becoming part of an eternal symphony. In this cadence of peaceful reflection, where time seemed suspended, the village of Historia stood as a reminder that history, in its quiet symmetry, could nurture peace. Its stories harmonized into a restful lullaby, inviting all who listened to find calm and respite within its timeless embrace. In the cradle of our ancestors' lands, where the winds whisper secrets through ancient trees and rivers sing their age-old songs, storytelling was the lifeline that connected generations. Every word was a thread, woven together to create a tapestry of culture, wisdom, and comfort. Stories became the shelter, protecting identities and histories from the eroding forces of time. In these narratives, heroes walked alongside gods, ordinary folk found their places among the stars, and the boundaries between the natural and the supernatural blurred. These oral traditions formed an eternal hearth around which families gathered, their echoes guiding new generations in understanding the world and their place within it. In a small village nestled between rolling hills and vast fields of grain, the elders sat in the flickering light of the fire, their faces carved by time and tales of old. Children gathered at their feet, eyes wide with anticipation, knowing that they were about to embark on journeys beyond the confines of their humble homes. This night, the elder began with a beloved tale, one passed down from her grandmother, who had heard it from her grandmother before her. It was the story of the Star Weaver, a tale that glimmered like a constellation in their minds. When the world was young and the sky freshly painted, there was once a magical being who wove stars into the heavens every night. The Star Weaver was not bound by time or place. Her loom was the universe itself, and her threads were spun from dreams and wishes. With each stitch, she created new constellations, sacred guardians of the night. The weaver worked tirelessly, her existence a solitary but blissful one, until one day she noticed a dim patch in the sky, a place where no stars shone. Curious and concerned, the weaver descended to the earth to investigate. To her wonder and dismay, she discovered a village shrouded in perpetual darkness, its people lost in shadows and despair. They had forgotten the stories of their ancestors, exchanged for the trivial concerns of the day. The weaver knew that stories were more than mere tales. They were the light that illuminated the human spirit. Determined to restore both the brightness of the stars and hope among the people, she began to visit them, bringing stories back to life, rekindling the flames of imagination and hope. Each night she would gather the children around her, just as the elder did now. Under the stars she had restored, she wove tales of bravery and love, of tricksters and wise judges, of intrepid explorers and gentle healings. As the villagers began to speak the stories again, their part of the sky sparkled anew. Her work complete, the star weaver returned to her place among the stars, a silent guardian of the stories she cherished. And somewhere beyond the sky, a new constellation appeared, a reminder of the power and necessity of storytelling. As the elder finished this revered tale, the children sighed contentedly, understanding in their own way how stories not only sheltered their ancestors, but also now encompassed their dreams, keeping them warm in the folds of a universe woven from words. Through the ages, as empires rose and fell, and societies evolved, this storytelling tradition endured. In distant lands and diverse cultures, stories found new forms and expressions, but their essence was the same. Every narrative was a seed, a beginning waiting to be cherished and passed on. In the islands of Polynesia, navigators spoke through songs and chants, recounting epics of sea voyages that guided their daughters and sons across the vast Pacific. In the mountains of the Andes, the tales of the Aulu elders wove together the spirits of the earth and sky, teaching respect for the Pachamama, the Earth Mother herself. In Africa, the griots traveled village to village, their stories carried on melodic winds, tales of kings and kinsfolk wrapping the community in shared history. And in Scandinavia, skalds sang the sagas of heroic feats and gods' laughter, keeping alive the valor, bound spirit of their people. Wherever peoples gathered, stories thrived, providing both solace and sustenance. They became a shelter against ignorance and a tool for understanding, shaping identities and bridging divides. The rhythm of a good story lulled the anxious minds to rest, weaving until morning the blanket of simple but essential dreams. In every storytelling session, in every corner of the earth, as people drifted to sleep, they carried with them the essence of these tales, an understanding that they were a part of a bigger story, one that continues to be written by their ancestors and inherited by each succeeding generation. Let us sleep then, cradled by stories that form the shelter of humanity, narratives gently passed down like a whispered lullaby, comforting and eternal. Long ago, in a world filled with immense challenges and quiet heroism, there existed a tapestry of hidden paths and whispered words that bore witness to the resilience of the human spirit. History often speaks of noise and conflict, but beneath it all lays a softer narrative, a story of silent resistance, ingenious strategies, and undying hope. As the moonlight gently caressed the verdant landscapes, whispers of freedom fluttered like silken threads through the night. The air was alive with the quiet strength of those who walked the paths of silent resistance. In the heart of dense forests, where the canopy of leaves shielded all underneath from prying eyes, there existed a network so intricate, so profound, it seemed almost part of the natural world itself. This network, woven with care and held together by trust, served as a lifeline for many. The ancient trees, with their gnarled roots and towering trunks, provided shelter and guidance to those who sought escape. Bark was adorned with marks, symbols known only to those who dared tread these hidden trails. In the cool, shaded corridors of the earth, stories were shared in hushed tones. These narratives of hope and dreams, passed from one to another, fueled the courage needed to journey on. Every rustle of leaves, every whisper of the wind, was a reminder of the countless individuals who had once trodden these paths, seeking freedom from bondage and oppression. Beyond the physical routes, there was another layer to this resistance, a network of communication woven through song and story. In the fields where labor was to be endured, melodies often drifted through the air. At first listen, they were simple tunes, but beneath the surface they carried messages, warnings, and maps. These songs were a code, ever-changing and evolving, full of advice on when it was safe to travel, where to seek shelter, or whom to trust. Each note, carefully crafted, was a lifeline to those listening, a reminder that they were not alone. However peaceful these methods may seem, they were born in the crucible of necessity and danger. The risk was ever present, the cost of freedom exceedingly high. And yet, there were those who dedicated themselves to the cause, creating safe havens along the routes. These sanctuaries varied. They could be the homes of brave individuals, willing to share what little they had, or they might appear as simple gatherings, where food and rest were offered before continuing the perilous journey. It was not just the physical paths and melodies that proved vital, but also the symbols that connected past with present. Quilts, pieced together with love and care, became messages. Their patterns told stories, encoded information, and through their vibrant colors and shapes, the means to freedom was chronicled. Hung from a line, spread on a bed, or gifted in plain sight, these quilts were communication tools, signaling safety or stealth. In this clandestine network of support, one could find anonymous friends, hidden allies bound by compassion and shared purpose, people from different walks of life, united by belief in a fundamental truth. Freedom for all beings was a right, not a privilege. In quiet moments, bonds were formed that transcended race, class, or belief, further strengthening the web of silent resistance. The night sky, sprinkled with stars, became a map for the journey. Celestial bodies, steadfast and unchanging, offered guidance. Those with knowledge of the heavens could decipher this stellar code, ensuring each step taken was a step towards liberation. Thus, history reveals its softer side, a narrative woven not of loud clashes, but of tender acts of defiance, of whispered words of encouragement. It is a story wrapped in layers of creativity and perseverance, showcasing the strength of community and the will to survive. As you close your eyes, embracing the night, allow these tales of silent paths and resilient spirits to lull you into a dreamy slumber, where peace and hope reign eternal. In the hushed whispers of history, there blows a gentle breeze that carries songs of resilience, hope, and unity. These are the songs of the wind, forged by the hearts and souls of enslaved Africans in a foreign land where their voices were often stifled and their spirits challenged. Music, however, bridged the chasms between their lost homeland and the life they were forced into. This narrative, dear listener, is woven into the gentle tapestry of their journey, a soothing lullaby of strength and cultural endurance. When the morning sun kissed the fields and the first shoots of sugar cane or cotton glistened with dew, the enslaved people took to their day's tasks. It was here, under the vast, open sky, that their songs rose with the wind. Melodies wrapped with melancholy yet woven with understated joy floated above the toil. These songs carried with them tales of a distant land where the beat of drums and the call and response echo of communal harmony thrived. The wind, it seemed, knew what the heart held most dear. Gathered under the canopy of night, away from watchful eyes, communities would form. The rhythm of their past lives pulsed beneath the stars, a gentle dance of feet, clap of hands, and hum of voices that carried into the night. Luther and Ngozi, bound by more than their chains, would recall how in their homeland, celebrations of life and love were adorned with the vibrant sounds of djembe drums, mbiras, and balafons. In the fields, songs were practical magic. They dictated the pace of work, an invisible force that synchronized movement, turning the back, breaking drudgery into a rhythmic symphony. The claves, simple sticks, clicked with a crisp clarity, leading the charge for unity. These were the griot stories, a historical tapestry that ensured history was sung rather than simply spoken. Through song, history became an active entity, immutable and mobile. Music, too, became the codex of solidarity. There were tunes that signaled gatherings, others that whispered of freedom and escape routes. Follow the drinking gourd, a melody cloaked in metaphor, advised hidden steps to liberty under the guidance of the North Star. Imagine now, dear listener, the gentle rise and fall of a humming chorus, serenading the earth. It drifted across the barrack rooms like a tender caress to soothe tired brows. Young mothers, swaying while the tunes lulled their babies to sleep, sang soft refrains passed down from their grandmothers' grandmothers. These songs were gifts, sacred heirlooms savored as much as sustenance, nourishing their spirits when food could not. Akinwale, with a smile cradled like a treasured secret, would often speak of the talking drums, drum beats that spoke in pitched tones mimicking the very language of their people. The Yango patterns echoed like a clarion call over fields and forests, resounding with messages too precious to be shackled by silence. Here lay the heart of community, surviving on rhythm, breaths becoming one beneath the sky. As the day nestled into night and a wary sun dipped beneath the horizon, the air grew cooler, and the breeze carried newer notes, hopeful, poignant. In the swaying grasses and the rustling trees, one could almost hear an ancestor's whisper, a gentle reminder to hold fast to one's roots despite the storm. Time marched on like the river that knew no bounds. The songs, pulsating with gentle urgency, transcended generations, imbuing their sense of identity with endurance. So when the winds sweep across the lands today, they still carry traces of those melodies, soft echoes of a past resilient, drifting into the dreams of those asleep. In this quiet symphony of life, where history unfurls its peaceful tales, may you find solace in the songs carried on the breeze, a reminder that the music of the heart and soul knows no boundaries nor chains. In the verdant landscapes of colonial Africa, where the sun cast its golden glow over sprawling plantations and humble subsistence plots, a remarkable transformation quietly unfolded. At the crossroads of different worlds, African agricultural knowledge began to seep into and reshape colonial farming practices, fostering a harmonious relationship between people and the bountiful land they cultivated. The story begins with the arrival of European settlers, driven by dreams of prosperity and abundance. They brought with them their own farming techniques, honed in lands far removed from Africa's diverse ecosystems. The settlers regarded Africa as an unwritten chapter, ready to be shaped and molded by their colonial ambitions. They established large farms, introducing crops like maize, which found a new home in African soil. However, the rigid monocultures that they initially implemented soon revealed their limitations. The land, unfamiliar to these new conquerors, resisted their efforts with its own rhythms and cycles, shaped over millennia. In this landscape of trial and error, African farmers continued to tend their plots with methods passed down through generations. Their knowledge was rooted in a deep understanding of the land's temperament, its seasons, and its inherent capacities. Rotational farming, intercropping, and the careful management of soil health were practices steeped in tradition. Local farmers viewed the land as a living entity with its own spirit and will, and they understood the importance of working alongside its natural processes. They practiced companion planting, a method that paired certain crops together for mutual benefit, enhancing soil fertility and controlling pests without the need for chemical interventions. As time passed, astute colonial farmers began to notice the robust productivity of native plots, particularly during times when their own fields languished. A silent acknowledgement began to grow, a recognition that the indigenous methods carried within them a wisdom that could complement and enhance colonial practices. The first to embrace this synthesis were those settlers with open minds and open hearts. They approached local farmers not as conquerors, but as equals, ready to learn from them. These settlers began incorporating African techniques, combining them with their own, and in doing so, cultivated a new relationship with the land. One such technique was the use of cover crops, which African farmers employed to protect and enrich the soil. These crops acted as a natural fertilizer, reducing the need for imported chemical inputs. Additionally, the practice of polyculture began to influence European agricultural systems as colonial farmers recognized its potential to diversify production and mitigate risks of crop failure. Slowly, the landscapes of African farms began to change. Fields that had once been rigid and monocultural transformed into vibrant mosaics of color and variety. Colonial farmers learned from their African counterparts about the importance of preserving soil moisture and the benefits of mulch. The knowledge exchange blossomed into a reciprocal relationship, benefiting both the land and its stewards. As these hybrid farming systems took root, a new era of abundance emerged. Yields increased, the health of the soil improved, and a sense of symbiosis between human and nature began to flourish. Africans and Europeans together witnessed the potential of cultivating diversity within their fields and their societies. This melding of practices not only enhanced agricultural productivity, but also fostered a greater sense of community. The sharing of knowledge became a bridge between cultures, transcending the boundaries imposed by colonialism. It promoted cooperation, mutual respect, and a shared responsibility for the land. The lessons learned in African soil during this period laid the foundation for future generations. They inspired innovations that would be adopted across the globe, reinforcing the understanding that nature and culture must coexist harmoniously. Through peaceful collaboration and the blending of agricultural wisdoms, colonial Africa experienced a quiet revolution. It was a transformation not wrought by the clash of swords, but by the soft rustling of leaves in a gentle breeze. the rhythmic fall of water from an ancient irrigation system, and the whispering of seeds taking root in earth, enriched by centuries of human care. The legacy of this time lives on, a testament to the power of shared knowledge and the enduring beauty of a symbiotic relationship with the land. The fields once walked by humble farmers and visionary settlers are now the symbol of a quietly radical past, a reminder that the roots of wisdom can indeed thrive in new soil. In the gentle glow of moonlight, a secret meeting unfolded beneath the sprawling branches of an ancient oak tree. This clandestine gathering was not one born out of conspiracy, nor was it tethered to any sinister intentions. Instead, it was an assembly of kindred spirits, drawn together by the strands of friendship and a shared purpose of resilience against the darkness that loomed around them. The darkness that infused their lives with uncertainty and fear. The night was calm, with just the whispering breeze to break the stillness. It carried with it the scent of blooming jasmine that intermingled with the earthy aroma of moss and soil. Each attendee came cloaked, not in elaborate disguises, but in simple garments that bore the marks of the day's toil. Yet within their hearts burnt bright the light of camaraderie, a beacon to guide them through the shadows. Upon joining the gathering, each person received a humble candle, waxy tendrils trailing off its edge, a symbol of hope and illumination in the overwhelming obscurity of their current lives. These candles, although small, were significant, representing the flicker of light that each individual brought to the collective. As they were lit, one by one, the gathering space transformed from a void of darkness into a shimmering haven of warmth and unity. In this gathering, stories were shared, timeless stories passed down through generations, stories echoing with lessons of perseverance and triumph over adversity. Each tale was punctuated by moments of silence, allowing the listeners to imagine the vibrant imagery painted by words and reflect on the experiences that paralleled their own. There were stories of old friends saving one another during trying times, of communities coming together to rebuild after natural disasters, and narratives celebrating small victories. Harvests bountiful enough to feed families, seeds sown in dust, choked earth finally sprouting after persistent care. Each account brought with it a sense of comfort, reinforcing belief in the enduring nature of the human spirit and the power of unity. As the stories wove their spell, the attendees found solace in the shared warmth, the simple comforts of being part of something greater than themselves. The camaraderie, the shared laughter, and the exchange of knowledge and dreams kindled a fire that no darkness could extinguish. Occasionally, the discussions would turn toward plans for the future, aspirations tempered with realism but infused with hope. They dreamed of days when the sun would shine brighter, unclouded by worry, when children could wake to the new dawn without fear, and when their small society could flourish unburdened by oppression or scarcity. The moon climbed higher, casting silvery beams that danced across the meadow. As the hour grew late, the group disbanded, each individual carefully extinguishing their candle, pocketing the softened wax as a keepsake of the night's warmth. It was a simple act, a quiet promise to return, to continue nurturing the flicker of fellowship and to safeguard the collective light from extinguishing. It was here, beneath the canopy of night, and within these gatherings, that they found their sanctuary, a testament to human endurance. Though they returned to their individual lives, tangled with intricacies, the spirit of their camaraderie lingered, a luminescent thread weaving throughout their separate paths, ready to converge once more when needed. With every meeting, every story, and every shared silence, they fortified not only the bond amongst themselves, but also stitched together a tapestry of hope, resilience, and light, a light in the pervasive darkness that they carried with them, ever brightening the path ahead. The threads of continuity take us on a journey through time, wrapped in the vibrant colors and intricate patterns of African textile arts. The art of weaving and textile creation in Africa is a testament to the unbroken line of cultural tradition that has endured through millennia. As we gently tread through the woven history, we experience a sense of the tranquil passing of time, where each thread in the tapestry whispers stories of past generations and their peaceful existence. In many African cultures, textiles are not simply fabric but sacred artifacts imbued with meaning and history. Yet the tradition of textile art is a continuous thread running through the lives of the people, adapting subtly to the ever changing world while maintaining an intrinsic link to the past. The gentle weave of this narrative creates an atmosphere conducive to serene contemplation, perfect for easing into slumber. Imagine the delicate process of hand spinning cotton, or the rhythmic clicking of a loom as threads are carefully aligned to form intricate patterns. Such meticulous care and attention resonate in the heartbeats of African villages, echoing through the ages. In regions like the Sahel and East Africa, the art of weaving is often taught by elders, ensuring that the skills and knowledge are passed down quietly, steadily, from one generation to the next. The past comes alive in the colorful strip cloths meticulously woven in West Africa. Each strip of cloth is a vibrant piece of art, and collectively they form a harmonious tapestry telling stories of history and identity. These cloths are more than decorative. They are a form of language, with patterns often denoting clans, social status, and even events from history. This silent communication through textile is an art form all its own, ancient and yet forever fresh, continually being woven into the fabric of community life. In places like Mali and Burkina Faso, the act of dyeing fabric becomes another transcendental experience. The use of natural dyes that age beautifully indigo blues, maturing reds, and earthy browns speaks to a harmonious relationship with the environment. The peaceful patience required to master this craft teaches us about rhythm, the rhythmic inhalation and exhalation of life as seasons change and the earth moves. Reflecting on this quiet, perfect history, consider the meaning behind the intricate designs of Kent cloth from Ghana. Each design tells a story, conveys a proverb, or honors a historical moment. In the gentle glow of ancestral fires, weavers set these tales into motion, their fingers deftly guiding the shuttle across the loom, setting threads into a continuity of tradition. As daylight fades, these stories are swaddled in a soft embrace, making them reassuring companions through the night. Textiles produced by communities in Africa are often steeped in ritual and celebration. The art form prospers in the communal act of creation, where friendship and fellowship weave just as strongly as the fabric. These textile arts bring people together in peace, as gatherings around looms and workspaces become places of sharing and storytelling, infusing the air with continuity and communal warmth. In the tranquil silence of an African evening, a calm descends as artisans finish their work. Fabric completed, dyed, and set to dry becomes a gentle reminder of the day's labor. The continuity of tradition finds its repose in these peaceful hours, with textile crafts as visual lullabies soothing us with the soft embrace of centuries-old familiarity. And so, wrapped in this cultural tapestry of African textile arts, we lie gently down, lulled by the rhythmic patterns that connect past with present, earth with sky, and people with peace. It is a perfect history, where everything rests in its rightful place, woven into time with threads of continuity, lulling us into restful slumber. In the quiet tapestry of history, the lives of enslaved individuals form a patchwork of stories, each unique yet woven together by the threads of shared experiences and indomitable human spirit. Imagine a sleepy village nestled under a canopy of stars, where stories of old echo through the quiet night, soothing the restless soul. In this peaceful haven, we are invited to travel back to a time when diversity was forged not by choice, but by the circumstances of life. We explore the lives of these individuals, each bringing their own background, culture, and story to the tapestry of history. Each life is a testament to endurance, a chapter in a broader saga of human resilience and hope. Consider a young boy from the lush valleys of West Africa. His everyday life before capture was filled with the sights and sounds of dense forests, his days spent learning the art of fishing and storytelling from his elders. These stories, passed down through generations, taught him of his heritage, of the spirits protecting his people, and the importance of family, community, and tradition. In another thread of our patchwork, picture a woman from the bustling markets of a North African settlement. Her life was a blend of vibrant colors and lively chatter, customers bartering over spices and textiles. She too had a rich cultural heritage full of music, dance, and the art of negotiation, skills taught to her by her mother. Her roots were deep, unfathomable to those who saw only her status, yet resilient against the tide of adversity. And then imagine a skilled craftsman from the highlands of Scotland. His hands, calloused from years of laborious work, carried the knowledge of masonry passed down through generations. His life was one of simplicity, yet marked by a profound connection to the land, its stones whispering untold histories. Though displaced, his creativity and ingenuity formed the foundations of community in new, foreign lands. These disparate life stories, when woven together, reveal a rich tapestry of human experience, a testament to resilience, adaptability, and the enduring quest for dignity. This patchwork is a reminder of the shared humanity and the beautiful diversity that arises from the blending of different backgrounds and experiences. Despite the harsh realities they faced, these individuals brought their histories and cultures with them, infusing their new environments with traditions and wisdom of their forebears. Through their stories, we see a kaleidoscope of languages, beliefs, and customs that enrich their shared existence, a testament to the power of diversity in the face of adversity. In the calm of this historical reflection, we find solace in the knowledge of their perseverance and the rich legacies they left behind. As we listen to the whispers of the past, we are lulled into a serene state, comforted by the harmonious blend of unique stories that come together in perfect peace. In this tranquil tapestry, history is not only a story to recite but a song to sleep to, embracing us with the soft lilt of its gentle melodies. Under the same sun, humanity dances to the tune of shared dreams and experiences that have bound us across ages. As the sun casts its golden glow, it serves as a reminder that beneath its luminescent rays, stories of hope, love, and longing have been woven into the very fabric of our existence. These universal threads transcend the confines of enslavement, circling back to epochs where societies were both formed and fractured, yet always reached for the light. On peaceful mornings, as dawn breaks, one might reflect on the gentle resilience of spirits unyielding, even when chains dictated their earthly bounds. Beneath the same sun, generations experienced the quiet power of hope, a seed planted in the soul that thrives against the odds. Enslaved peoples across antiquity, be it in vast empires or hidden corners of the world, often found solace in the peaking sun, a steadfast witness to their whispered dreams and silent prayers. Love too finds a way, meandering through corridors of time, overcoming walls erected by mankind. It has always existed as an undeniable force, rendering barriers invisible, if only momentarily. During times of bondage, love manifested itself in myriad forms, a gentle touch shared between the weary, songs that spoke of freedom in hushed tones, or the mere clasp of hands beneath a starry sky that stretched beyond man-made boundaries. Longing is indeed the echo that sustains the heart's tempo in such tales, drawing parallels between the ancient longing for freedom and today's quest for meaning. Under the same sun, eyes look skyward, united by an intrinsic yearning for a life unshackled, a testament to the human spirit's insatiable pursuit of what lies beyond reach. Amidst placid fields, where the sun surrenders to dusk, there is comfort in history's embrace. In these moments, we see the past not as a haunting shadow, but as an invaluable chapter of endurance and ethereal joy. History, in its serene spectrum, sings lullabies composed of victories etched not with swords, but with smiles and shared gazes. Troy Villa, as they call it, was destroyed by fire. You can still see the marks if you look closely: scorched stones, shattered pottery. There are no bodies here, no skeletons left in the doorways, no mass graves. But there are clues, broken slingstones clustered in corners, burned grain still tucked in storage jars, a collapsed wall where someone may have made a last stand or simply tried to escape. The sun has watched over these lands, bearing witness to the evolving narrative of each civilization that came and went in its light. With each dawn, a blank canvas presented itself, a fresh opportunity for stories to unfold, for dreams to soar unheeded by circumstance. It reminds us, in its infinite patience, of an enduring truth that though bound by experiences distinct in their hardship, we persist under the same, indifferent yet comforting sun. In the tapestry of human history, peace has woven its delicate threads in times seemingly blemished by unrest. Yet the abundance of those silent, tender moments in which hope surged speaks louder, offering solace to souls still wandering in search of home. We sleep, cradled by stories of survival, love's resilience, and unwavering hope, painted across epochs illuminated by the same sun's glow. The enchanting serenade of history unfolds as a lullaby, one where humanity's heartbeats synchronize under the shared light, inviting us into a slumber enwrapped by dreams of a harmonious world, ever watching as the sun rises anew. In reflecting upon the deep, unrecorded echoes of the legacy left by early enslaved individuals in America, we embark on a journey through time, a peaceful journey, crafted through quiet nights and gentle whispers. It is a narrative that invites introspection and resonates softly with modern American culture and values. Like a gentle lullaby, it soothes the senses, offering a serene tapestry woven with threads of history, remembrance, and acknowledgement. Long before the bustling cities and paved roads, there were stories of resilience, strength, and undying hope. Amidst the rolling fields of tobacco and cotton, lives were lived unnoticed by the annals of mainstream history. These lives, though bound by chains, possessed a freedom that endures, a freedom of spirit and culture that has seamlessly threaded its way into the very fabric of modern American culture. Imagine a tranquil night under the southern sky, where the stars twinkle softly. The air holds a quiet reverence, a gentle hush, as though the earth itself pauses to listen to the songs carried by the breeze. These are not just any songs, these are the spirituals, the soulful hymns that speak of sorrows and joys, of faith and endurance. Sung by those who toiled in the fields, these melodies carried with them the echoes of hopes and dreams, leaving an indelible mark on American music. The rhythms of jazz, the soulful strains of blues, and the vibrant energy of gospel all owe their genesis to these unrecorded voices. In the quiet of one's mind, picture the artisans, the craftsmen amongst the enslaved, whose hands skillfully shaped wood and iron, creating beauty from raw materials. Their legacy whispers through time, influencing American craftsmanship, and echoing in the intricate quilts and folk tiles that carry forward the richness of African tradition interwoven with new stories born on foreign soil. Consider the persistence of oral storytelling around fire pits at night, imagining children gathered at the feet of their elders, listening to tales spun with the elegance of silk. These narratives, rich with wisdom and lessons, have given rise to American storytelling traditions, influencing literature, theater, and film. The ability to keep histories alive without ink and paper is an echo, a testament to resilience that speaks even today. As we walk through these peaceful reflections, let us not forget the culinary traditions passed down through generations. From the skillets of plantation kitchens emerged flavors and recipes that have become quintessentially American. Soul food, deeply rooted in African culinary practices, whispers of a past shared in community and sustenance, its echoes still warming homes across the nation. Modern concepts of civic liberty, human rights, and the enduring fight for equality draw from the strength of those who lived in shacks but dreamed of freedom. Their unrecorded scribes in the sand have influenced countless movements, their silhouettes dancing at the edges of protests, their whispers urging justice with every step forward. The legacy left by these early individuals is not written in textbooks, but it thrives in everyday actions, in the simple kindnesses shared between strangers, and the unyielding spirit of tenacity. As we slip into slumber, let these echoes of legacy soothe conflicted spaces, mirroring the quiet tenacity that insists on hope. Their stories may not fill pages, but they fill hearts and shape values. They teach us that, in acknowledgement and remembrance, one finds a quiet strength, a peacefulness that transcends noise, and in this rest, we find understanding, a peaceful understanding perfect for sleep. In the gentle glow of the moon, atop the hills where the shadows danced along the ground, whispered secrets unfolded in the stillness of the night. The soft rustle of the leaves carried the murmur of hope, and quiet acts of defiance that filled the air, weaving a tapestry of resistance. Beneath the canopy of stars, there was more than darkness. There was the essence of quiet rebellion against the institution of slavery, a whisper that would echo through the ages. Among these whispers were tales of courage, of souls bound not just by their chains, but more so by their indomitable spirit. Even as the world above slumbered, the oppressed found solace in each other's company, huddled together in secret gatherings. They shared not only their pain and sorrow, but also their dreams of freedom. Dreams they dared not speak in the light of day. In the heart of an ancient forest, amidst the silvery shadows cast by the moonlit branches, a young boy named Kofi sat with his elders around a flickering flame. The fire crackled softly, a tender beacon against the vast sea of inky blackness. Here, away from prying eyes, they recounted stories of their ancestors, warriors and kings who roamed free, unshackled by chains and constraints. Kofi listened with wide eyes as the voices around him rose, and fell like the rhythm of a gentle lullaby. Each whisper painted vividly in his mind a world where they could walk unbound, where the air was crisp and full of joyous song. In these moments of storytelling, the shadows stretched long and thin, as though the earth itself was eager to absorb each word and keep it secret until the time was right. The elders taught Kofi about the power of the whisper, the way it could spread knowledge quietly, evade detection, and plant the seeds of rebellion without drawing undue attention. The wind, one elder softly intuned, carries our hopes and dreams, and through it, we communicate without uttering a single loud word. We are the whispers in the shadows, and no power can silence us. In the depths of the plantations, whispers became the thread that connected one soul to another. They wove through the fields, carried from hut to hut, passing on messages coded in song and rhythm, a language born of necessity and an unbreakable will. These songs became a nighttime serenade of rebellion, exuding strength often underestimated. Beneath the surface of their servitude, plans were laid through inconspicuous gestures and coded patterns. Kofi learned to read them, the tilt of a head, the drawn-out note of a work song, or a deliberate pause, each an element of a hidden tapestry that depicted a world yearning to be free. Each small act, though seemingly insignificant, fueled the spirit of resistance as subtly as the ebb and flow of the moonlit tides. As the whispers rolled across the landscape, they found their way into the hearts of like-minded souls. These quiet voices motivated women like Abini, whose work under the oppressive sun did nothing to dim the relentless fire within her. Abini became a fervent whisperer. Her voice, though seldom raised, resonated with undeniable strength and conviction. The corridor of trees that lined the edges of the plantations bore witness to clandestine meetings, where information was exchanged, hope was kindled, and pacts were silently made. The moonlight bathed the conspirators in a silvery embrace, shielding their secrets with the cloak of night. With each passing day, the whispers grew louder, more insistent, their power increasing exponentially though never once raising a shout. Carefully, yet resolutely, they wove a network of resistance where once none had existed, an intricate web of connection that spanned generations. As this covert resistance blossomed, it drew upon the past to forge a path toward the future, inspiring hope and courage amidst a world determined to suppress them. Voices of wisdom counseled patience and resilience, urging vigilance in their acts of defiance. It was this very patience, a quiet, relentless persistence, that was a battle cry in itself. Though the bondage remained, every whisper carried the essence of liberty and the promise of a dawn yet to come. Kofi, in his silence, grew wiser, learning to trust the rhythm of his people, their songs, stories, and dreams guiding him onward. Every leaf that shivered on its branch, every brook that babbled its ancient song, carried within it the indomitable spirit of those who dared to dream. And so, in hushed tones, the whispers navigated through darkness, building strength like a hidden army, wary yet unyielding, their quiet acts of rebellion laying the foundation for a future where their descendants might walk freely in the light. As the night stretched on, the moon kissed the edges of the earth with a gentle glow, and all through the shadows, the whispers continued their steady march toward the horizon of hope. These whispers, heard by so few yet powerful enough to stir the souls of many, became the fabric of a narrative that future generations would cherish and build upon. They were the whispers in the shadows, resilient and relentless, growing stronger with each passing moment, a testament to the enduring spirit of human resilience and the belief in a world beyond chains. In the gentle embrace of history's twilight, where tales of the past weave a soothing tapestry, let us journey across time and space to a narrative that spans continents and oceans. Our story begins with ancient bridges that connected civilizations, transcending the horizon of the human imagination. Through the ebb and flow of time, these connections were shaped profoundly by the movement of enslaved Africans, whose remarkable resilience and cultural heritage forged new pathways across the great Atlantic Ocean. First comes the whispered tale of the Ghana Empire and its golden legacy. Here, in the rich fields of the West African savanna, the rhythms of daily life were guided by the rise and fall of empires. As the sun dipped below the horizon, village elders would gather to share stories of vast caravans traversing the Sahara. These caravans connected far-flung lands, their routes as reliable as the stars guiding sailors across the seas. The trade that flourished here not only spread goods like gold, and salt but also knowledge, bringing a unity of diverse cultures. Across the Atlantic, in the lush lands of the Americas, civilizations such as the Maya, Aztec, and Inca thrived in harmony with their surroundings. The architectural marvels of Machu Picchu and the intricate cities of the Mayan lowlands stood as monuments to human achievement long before the Atlantic routes became a bridge. Nature and the divine were inseparable, and those who lived under the watchful eyes of gods respected the delicate balance of the universe. As the winds of destiny shifted, the arrival of European explorers brought new chapters to these lands. The contact between old and new worlds was an epoch marked by curiosity and chaos alike. Yet, beneath the turbulent surface, even here, gentle currents of influence flowed. Enslaved Africans, brought across the ocean against their will, carried with them traditions, languages, and wisdom. Their presence slowly began to reshape cultures in subtle but profound ways. Imagine a quiet evening in the Caribbean, where the scent of sea and spice mingles in the air. Here, elements of African dance and rhythm found new echoes in the shared space of colonial plazas. Drumming, an integral form of communication, evolved seamlessly into languages spoken by maroon communities that dotted the mountains and forests, places where freedom found its refuge. Linguistic threads from Africa wove into the tapestry of Caribbean languages, forming Creole dialects that survive to this day. In the eastern seaboard of North America, the tides of exchange were no less transformative. The enslaved Africans brought with them agricultural knowledge, planting rice and other crops that became staples in the southern colonies. Their expert craftsmanship in ironworking and weaving laid the foundation for artistic expressions and utilitarian objects woven into the fabric of American society. The sun now casts long shadows on the white sands of Bahia, Brazil, where capoeira dancers perform under the shade of ancient palm trees. Here, the martial art born from the will to resist and survive serves as a joyful celebration of African heritage, its movements echoing the history of those who created it amidst both hardship and hope. In Europe, a quiet revolution unfolds as the influence of African cultures permeates the arts and sciences. The sharp ears of a Renaissance musician catch rhythms that defy conventional scores, while in others a philosopher ponders tales carried over the ocean. Meanwhile, European art eagerly absorbs the vibrant hues and styles brought by travelers who ventured into unknown lands. In this peaceful reflection of history, the transatlantic interactions dimly illuminate a path of progress where innovation often stemmed from the fusion of diverse cultures. Ingredients from Africa mingled with those from native and European sources, giving rise to culinary traditions that spread joy across tables irrespective of origin. Throughout this narrative, the emotional tones remain gentle as the narrative meanders, highlighting moments of coexistence and cultural synthesis amid a complex past. Whether traced in the colorful textiles of the Andes, the vernacular blues of the Mississippi Delta, or the graceful nuances of jazz in New Orleans, the story of connection unfolds with a rhythm of its own, soft, deliberate, and enlightening. As we drift further still into remote vistas of the mind, our thoughts guided gently by the luminance of stars and the soothing sound of ocean waves, we remember that the story of civilization is neither a straight course nor a plain tale. Instead, it is a delicately woven spectrum of individual journeys, across time, across lands, or aboard ships that rode the water's surface like dreams. The resilient spirit of connection endures and flourishes, linking once distant shores like bridges formed in the collective imagination. And so we find ourselves here once more, at night's gateway, our thoughts nestled gently within the cadence of peace that history's bridge offers, a narrative cradle that holds both weight and lightness in perfect balance as slumber wraps its gentle cloak around us. In this chapter, we follow the figurative footsteps left behind by the enslaved, which, though often ignored in history, shaped many paths. Demonstrating resilience, adaptability, and an indomitable spirit, these individuals' experiences offer us a profound glimpse into the silent narratives interwoven into the larger historical tapestry. As we traverse the annals of history, the echo of unvoiced stories speaks loudly through the enduring cultural influences and contributions left by enslaved peoples. From ancient civilizations to more contemporary times, each society bears the indelible mark of those who labored untold hours under the harshest conditions imaginable, often creating the very foundations upon which economies and cultures would thrive. Our journey begins in the heart of ancient Mesopotamia, a cradle of civilization where the forced labor of countless individuals laid the groundwork not just for monumental structures, but for an emerging way of life that would shape societies for millennia. In hushed whispers carried on the desert winds, the stories of those who were captured, forced into servitude, and yet, paradoxically, contributed immensely to the cultural and technological advancements are often drowned by the sands of time. We move to the ancient Greeks and Romans, where the institution of slavery was intricately woven into the social fabric. Here, the enslaved were not merely laborers but took significant roles within households and businesses, shaping societal norms in subtle yet monumental ways. Many were artisans, educators, and keepers of trade secrets who, in the silence of night, passed down their knowledge to future generations. Further into antiquity, we arrive in Egypt, where the narrative of enslavement merges seamlessly with grandeur and mystique. The pyramids, those monoliths standing tall amidst swirling sands, bear testimony not solely to the pharaohs who commanded their rise, but to the thousands of nameless souls whose hands meticulously placed stone upon stone. These structures are silent monuments to the ingenuity and sheer force of will of an enslaved workforce without whom such achievements would not exist. During the Middle Ages, as Europe began to reshape itself from the remnants of the Roman Empire, the role of the enslaved was pivotal, though virtually invisible. Their work in agriculture helped sustain burgeoning populations, and their presence in medieval cities enriched cultural tapestries, surviving even as the populace sought to cite them from historical memory. Shifting to the rise of the transatlantic slave trade, the shadows of those forcibly taken from African shores loom large. They not only brought labor, but also carried invaluable cultural heritages. The blending of African and European traditions gave rise to new, vibrant cultures across the Americas that endure to this day. It is in music, cuisine, and oral traditions where we truly witness the indelible influence of the enslaved on societies that to this day benefit from their contributions while seldom publicly acknowledging them. In America, enslaved people became the backbone of the economy, their labor driving the rapid growth of industries such as cotton, tobacco, and sugar. While primary narratives focus on the landowners and industrial leaders, it is the sweat, skilled hands, and craftsmanship of the enslaved that propelled America's rise. As we listen closely, we hear faint whispers, songs filled with sorrow yet also with hope and resistance, echoing through the fields and plantations. In recent centuries, the tales of the enslaved have started to see the light of day, as historians and archaeologists dig deeper to uncover their stories. The paths forged by their resilience, creativity, and perseverance continue to inspire movements for justice and equality today. Their invisible footsteps serve as a poignant reminder of humanity's complex journey and the capacity for hope and change against all odds. As we conclude our journey, we invite you, dear reader, to ponder the quiet strength of these voices carried through time, woven silently into the fabric of history. They are not merely footnotes, but are pivotal chapters of human endurance and perseverance, deserving of recognition and remembrance. Close your eyes and let the stories lull you into peaceful repose, as the footsteps of history echo softly, guiding us gently into slumber. There is a silence that pervades the deep corridors of history, especially when it comes to the early chapters of American slavery. This silence is not just the absence of noise, it's the absence of voices, stories, and truths that were never allowed to be written or spoken. For centuries, a quiet obscured the lives of those who were brought to the New World in chains, an intentional quiet by those who wanted to control the narrative, and a quiet born out of survival by those who lived it. The long quiet began in the 17th century when the first enslaved Africans arrived in the American colonies. Their stories weren't written down in ledgers or colonial records, where details of their lives should have been etched. Instead, they were reduced to numbers, transactions recorded in ledgers alongside livestock and other goods. Behind these numbers were men, women, and children, displaced from their homeland, torn from their culture, and thrust into a world where their voices were silenced. For a long time, history books spoke mainly of the owners, landowners, plantation masters, traders, and politicians, the intricate details of plantation logistics, the economics of slavery, and the politics at play filled volumes while the narratives of those enslaved remained unwritten, their stories left in the quiet. However, this quiet did not mean an absence of history. It meant an absence of acknowledgement. The enslaved created their own histories through oral traditions, songs, and stories passed down through generations. Spirituals coated with messages of faith and hope served both as comfort and resistance. Folktales became allegories of resilience and intelligence, where trickster figures like Boer Rabbit outsmarted stronger foes, a metaphor for navigating a life under slavery. Over time, the silence began to break. Small cracks formed in the established narratives as historians, anthropologists, and descendants of the enslaved began to unearth these buried histories. They explored archives, unearthed personal letters, combed through plantation records, and listened carefully to oral histories passed down through families. The resilience of these stories became evident as they reconstructed lives from fragments, restoring voices to the silenced. One pivotal figure in breaking this silence was Frederick Douglass, an escaped slave who became a powerful orator and abolitionist in the 19th century. His autobiographical narratives unveiled the oppressive realities of slavery and the strength of those who resisted its yoke. By sharing his story publicly, he fissured the quiet with a voice that spoke not just for himself, but as a representative of millions. The work of writers like W.E.B. Du Bois and Zora Neale Hurston continued this mission into the 20th century. Hurston, in her anthropological work, sought to document African American folklore and carry forward the tales that had persisted despite silencing efforts. She came not just to academia but directly to the people whose ancestors lived these histories. In contemporary times, efforts to break the silence around early American slavery have intensified. Museums and historic sites dedicated to telling these stories are on the rise. The Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture, for instance, takes visitors through a detailed journey from the roots of slavery to modern times, immersing them in the human stories behind the facts. Contemporary oral history projects collect the recollections of descendants, giving new life to memories that were at risk of being forgotten. These projects acknowledge that while the history of slavery was traumatic and oppressive, the culture and resilience of those who survived it is a testament to the human spirit's endurance. Academics are also revisiting the silence embedded in the nation's founding documents, the colonial records, and the historical amnesia that overlooked the contributions and suffering of enslaved people. New digital resources, such as the Slave Voyages database, democratize access to information about the transatlantic slave trade, offering powerful insights derived from data that uncover who was transported, where, and when. A Breaking the Long Quiet is not about erasing stories, but about adding dimensions to them, explains a researcher working on a project to map the untold stories of enslaved people in the New South. It's about recognizing that American history was never monolithic. It was and always will be a mosaic of voices, perspectives, and experiences. Thus, we come to understand that this quiet which once enveloped the history of early American slavery is now being actively dismantled. Like a tapestry painstakingly unraveled, the aim is not just to view its surface, but to understand every thread, every color in its making. Each story uncovered is not just history remembered. It's a reparation of the fabric of our collective past. In the profound quiet of history, broken by these voices, we find both reckoning and reconciliation. The work continues, not just for history's sake, but for the present and the future, ensuring that this once silent legacy will never be forgotten again, and finally allowing space for the voices long suppressed to speak, once and for all, above the silence. In the cradle of the New World, far from the golden coasts of their homeland, the enslaved Africans found themselves thrust into a reality so starkly different from the one they had known. Each step they endured carried the weight of change, each heavy with history, wrapped in whispers of wind and the call of distant sands. To understand is to see through their eyes. It is to walk in fields where the sun beats down relentlessly, not as a free soul tending to their own, but as a body in chains, seen only for its labor. Here, history unfolds not as the crisp, yellowed pages bound in a historian's tome, but as the soft, worn footpaths that thread through lush plantations and whisper stories of the past. Their journey began long before they set foot on the alien shores. Torn from the womb of Africa, they were thrust into the bowels of ships that rode the waves like cursed chariots. In those dark chambers, humanity was stripped to its core. Oceans away each ripple seemed to echo with their cries, a harsh chorus that no one heard but themselves. Bound by chains, the journey was a crucible, a forge of grit and resilience. To see through their eyes is to feel the salt air sting not with freedom, but with the salt of tears unshed, the salt of sweat washed away by ocean spray. Shadows moved over them like specters of what came before, each wave a reminder of memories left adrift. Upon the new land, they stumbled into existence once more, but theirs was a life dictated by the hands of others. The fields and skies might have been beautiful. Such beauty is not lost on the souls who know to see, but a measured breath was all they could grasp, each one cherished in defiance of the barbed tapestry the world had woven around them. In the communal murmurs shared under the half-light of stars, there was solace, a quiet defiance borne aloft on rhythm and song. Here, they spoke the language of the heart and spirit, a language older than the stars thronging the night skies. Here, the fire of the ancestors flickered in stories danced upon by firelight. To work the fields was to engage in a symphony of labor, an enduring testament to perseverance. Each harvest was more than subsistence, it was survival manifest, a ritual groove carved deep into the earth by hands and tools both. Therein lay silent victories, cornrows neat in their execution, bales stacked high against the horizon, mere silhouettes at dusk. Their evenings were a gentle serenade, a lull in the current of time where stories came to life, where the deeds of ancestors unfolded in dramatic retellings, and the simple melody of a shared song spun hope from air. Their voices, in harmony, painted pictures of homelands, of the dreams they had sown there and the futures they dared to imagine. Through their eyes, the world was layered with nuances missed by many. Here, the resonance of a drum invoked heartbeats of continuity, a tether to the motherland, a cadence that spoke in petroglyphs, carved invisibly into the day's weary hours. Each beat was a rebellion against the erasure sought by the world around them. As sunrise broke upon the horizon each day, there was a moment, a slivered instance, where hope burst anew. Children played beneath the great swaths of sky, their laughter an echo of freedom in giggles and motions untamed. For them, the world was still wide for them. The boundaries set by toil and hardship had yet to crystallize fully. This was a world seen through eyes rich with depth and light, eyes that held the knowledge passed down from ancient times. A world painted in hues dulled by suffering, yet vibrant by the resilience imbued within. To see the world through their eyes is to see a dance of survival, joy threading stealthily alongside sorrow's own step. The pasts they carried were not lost. Within every hum and whisper, within the gentle coloring of dusk, they guarded these histories. Guardians of stories, the keepers of a past written not in ink upon parchment, but in the careful etching upon human souls. In this way, history becomes a lullaby, one that sings softly in the quiet moments of night, rocking generations into a sleep filled not with dreams unrestrained, but dreams clipped and reshaped by the world they navigated. This is history seen through kind eyes, eyes that, despite everything, have learned to weave hope in the chill of nightfall, to render the harshness of new worlds starkly beautiful, to draw peace even as furious tempests gather far past the horizon. In the quietude of historical exploration, we often find ourselves ambling through the serene corridors of time. The past, with its many twists and tales, speaks to us not through noise and clamor, but through a gentle whisper that is often missed amidst the cacophony of modern life. Our journey today takes us deep into the roots of architectural majesty and urban planning, crafted by hands that were often unrecognized, those of the enslaved. These are stories hidden beneath the grand facades of celebrated edifices, tales that echo silently in the vast halls where ancient voices once murmured. Consider the great pyramids of Egypt, their imposing forms rising against the desert sky. Most visitors are taken aback by their grandeur, yet few ponder the uncredited laborers who translated vision into reality. Enslaved workers, anonymous yet integral, toiled under the watchful gaze of their overseers, laying stone by stone, hewing paths through the hard terrain of their own survival. Their enduring legacy is one of resilience, their spirit captured eternally in the precision of each limestone block. The meticulous planning of ancient cities like Teotihuacan in Mexico was no less dependent on the countless hands that shaped them. In the shadow of the Pyramid of the Sun, history unfolds stories of architects guided by stars yet reliant on the work of those beneath them. Yet, there is tranquility in contemplating how each tool scratch was a note in a harmonious symphony, playing a silent ode to human endurance and craftsmanship. Venturing into the heart of Greece, the Acropolis stands as a testament to ancient ingenuity and imagination. However, beneath the marble sheen and Doric perfection lay the efforts of enslaved populations whose toils were overlooked by history. Despite their anonymity, these individuals were architects in their own right, sketching with sweat and perseverance an everlasting Athenian legacy. Rome's majestic Colosseum similarly narrates a story of strength. Within its weathered walls, the echo of centuries vibrates with the prowess of gladiators and the cheers of the Roman populace. Yet, the stones themselves bear witness to the labor of enslaved workers who carried and placed them with the precision that time has forgotten to honor. These silent architects left behind not just a structure, but a timeless reminder of human capability and endurance. Beyond the edifices stands the complex system of Roman roads, whose intricate networks unfurled across continents, dictating pathways followed by merchants, soldiers, and envoys. This vast infrastructure, an understated marvel often overlooked in favor of more tangible structures, was the lifeline of empires, constructed diligently by those who remain unnamed, their only recognition being the roads that have withstood time's relentless march. In the palatial expanse of Versailles, the Sun King's abode, elegance drips from every corner, and symmetry reigns supreme. Yet it's the laborers, oftentimes enslaved, who meticulously placed each garden rock and crafted majestic fountains whose names history has neglected. Their toil transformed forested lands into manicured masterpieces, a silent testament to unacknowledged artistic prowess. Let us now whisper through the streets of Tenochtitlan, the Aztec civilization's crown jewel. Enslaved laborers here etched canals and raised temples, their dedication weaving a tapestry of architectural brilliance that flourished in the heart of Mexico. Their stories linger amidst the ruins, a peaceful reminder of how human tenacity forms the backbone of architectural marvels. Further east, Angkor Wat in Cambodia reflects the fervor of divine devotion, an earthly paradise carved from stone. This magnificent temple complex, rather than being just a dedication to the heavens, is also a monument to the thousands of workers who chiseled, documented, and ultimately brought to life the ethereal beauty etched across its surfaces. Their unrecognized contributions narrate the harmony and silence, the heartbeat of Angkor that still resonates through the ages. The Great Wall of China snakes across barren landscapes, a formidable barrier built to withstand invasions, yet coming to symbolize unity, constructed by married hands, many of whom were enslaved. Each brick laid was a burden borne with unyielding resolve. They remain without personal accolade, leaving behind a monument that's testament to strength and unity, though their names have drifted away like autumn leaves. As we drift through these narratives, lulled by the peace of understanding and forgotten tales, we are enveloped in a collective sigh, a unison memory of unsung architects and planners whose legacies persist without laurels. Their remarkable accomplishments, uncredited and silent, continue to form the fabric of history's prestigious tapestry, soothing us into the restful embrace of history without recognition. In the quiet, rolling fields of the American South, where the whispering winds weave through the cotton plants, a story as old as time itself emerges, a story of seeds and growth, resilience and change. The seeds of change is not just a tale of plants, but of the early enslaved peoples who carried their knowledge and dreams across oceans, planting not only crops but also the seeds of cultural heritage and future emancipation. When enslaved individuals were forcibly brought to new lands, their deep understanding of agriculture became a crucial asset. Despite facing unimaginable hardships, these early peoples from West Africa contributed a wealth of agricultural knowledge that would forever change the American landscape. Many were skilled farmers, familiar with growing rice, okra, black-eyed peas, and other crops that flourished in their homelands. Their expertise was indispensable in developing the agricultural economy, especially in the southern states. Among the literal seeds they planted were those of rice, a crop that would become a staple and a major export product for the southern colonies. Rice was not native to North America, but was introduced by these skillful farmers who understood the techniques necessary to cultivate it, such as tidal irrigation, which they had practiced in Africa. This knowledge provided a strong foundation upon which the southern economy could thrive. But alongside these literal seeds, the enslaved people planted metaphorical seeds of cultural resilience. The music, stories, and spiritual beliefs they carried with them were passed down through generations, becoming intertwined with the cultural fabric of America. Songs sung in the fields spoke of sorrow, but also of hope and resistance. Stories told around firelight preserved their history and wisdom, ensuring that the soul of their heritage would not be lost. The gardens these early farmers tended became places of refuge and subtle resistance. In hidden corners of plantations, enslaved people cultivated provision grounds, growing vegetables and herbs that provided not just sustenance, but also a semblance of autonomy. These plots allowed them to maintain a connection to their cultural roots and offered a small measure of control over their difficult lives. As time passed, the metaphorical seeds they planted started to grow into movements seeking freedom and equality. The knowledge and traditions preserved and nurtured by enslaved peoples would later play a significant role in emancipation efforts. Leaders like Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass emerged from these communities, carrying with them the dreams and hopes that had been sown long ago. Their tireless efforts and powerful oratory helped galvanize the abolitionist movement, a testament to the enduring strength of those original seeds. Peacefully, as one rests back and lets the gentle sway of history's tales guide them into slumber, one can imagine the rustle of the crops and the whispered stories of those who once tended them. It is a story of resilience in adversity, hope in desperation, and the quiet yet powerful testament to the spirit's capacity to endure and eventually transcend. The seeds of change remind us that from the smallest of seeds can grow the most profound change, affecting not just the landscape, but the very soul of a nation. As we close our eyes, seeking sleep, we remember the legacy of those seeds and the people who planted them, forever altering the soil beneath our feet and the world around us. In the soft, serene hum of crickets under a starlit sky, the echoes of their enduring legacy cradle us, coaxing us gently into the realm of dreams, where history's lessons envelop us in a tranquil embrace. The world has always ebbed and flowed like the gentle waves of a river, carrying with it the stories of resilience and spirit. Down at the heart of history's river, amid the pebbles and reeds, lies the quiet yet astounding narrative of those bound by chains yet unbroken in spirit, whose courage and humanity shone brightly even in the darkest of times. The night often cloaked them in its quiet embrace, providing slim but sacred moments of rest, as their minds drifted into dreams where freedom was tangible, not just a whisper carried on the wind. In these dreams, their resilience took form in the soothing sounds of a river, where each ripple mirrored their inner strength. When the first light kissed the horizon, these dreams did not shatter, they transformed into a steadfast resolve. Much like a river's gentle waves, their determination was relentless, eroding the boundaries set before them, carving new paths towards hope and identity. Each day came with its burdens, yet their spirits bore a timeless tenacity. History, viewed through a peaceful lens, shows us the small moments of beauty that persist against the odds. We imagine now an evening in the antebellum South. Cicadas sing in distant trees, harmonizing with the rustle of leaves caressed by a warm breeze. In a modest cabin, families share stories, each word a lifeline tethering them to one another. They speak of ancestors, of dreams, and most of all of freedom, a notion that seems both proximate and distant, much like the gentle wave's eternal journey, which never ceases, never falters. The resilience within them mirrors the water's eternal flow, each obstacle met not with resignation, but with the quiet power to mold and transform. Their laughter, a defiant sound in the night, rang out at the sky, proclaiming their humanity against a backdrop of repression. These moments were their anchors, their precious, tangible embrace of life. Time moves on much like the passage of that mighty river. Its waves carry forward the stories, the memories of those who fought silently, faces lit by the fire of endurance. This persistence is akin to the river reshaping the earth, subtly but eternally. In this gentle, moonlit reflection, we find tranquility in knowing that with each wave comes a lesson. The tide of history, peaceful and measured, reassures us of the strength woven into humanity's fabric. Enslaved individuals, whose tales permeate the water's whispers, were more than the shackles that bound them. Their legacy is an enduring testament to resilience, a river's story, endlessly flowing through the annals of time. As you drift into slumber, let this chapter of human history soothe your mind as gentle as waves lapping at a riverbank. Remember those who persisted silently, with the resilience of water shaping stone, nurturing hope as tirelessly as the river, and in their own way, found peace sound asleep under those ancient stars. The sounds of waves lapping gently against the seashore created a sense of tranquility that belied the turbulence of human history at harbors across the world. Quiet harbors, with their serene landscapes and lullabies of gentle tides, painted a picture of peace under vast starlit skies. Yet, they were also witnesses to moments of profound human emotion, hope mingled with despair, as ships set sail toward uncertain futures. In these once bustling ports, the air was thick with the salty scent of the ocean, a bittersweet reminder of journeys both forced and voluntary. For centuries, harbors were gateways, the narrow divide between solid ground and the mysterious sea. They symbolized a crossroad, a choice, or sometimes the absence of one. Ships that docked brought tales from distant lands and whispers of what lay beyond the horizon. For some, that vast expanse of blue stirred dreams of adventure, prosperity, and discovery. For others, however, especially during the dark era of the transatlantic slave trade, these ships were a symbol of enslavement, uprooting them from their homes and setting them on paths of no return. The hustle and bustle of sailors, merchants, and dock workers that animated these harbors has faded, leaving in its place a ghostly calm. The gentle creak of a rope, the clink of an anchor settling into the sand, the murmurs of water against the hull of an ancient ship, these whisper the stories of countless souls whose fates were bound to the ebb and flow of ocean tides. Among the more peaceful harbors were those untouched by the tumult of commerce, coarse and astir with life. Their appeal lay in their tree-lined walkways, dotted with wildflowers, and the soothing rustle of reeds swaying in the breezes. Such places provided solace and reflection, a momentary respite from the challenges of the world. Imagine a night within such a harbor, where the only interruption to silence was the occasional distant cry of a sea bird. Fishermen retired to their modest huts, where the fragrance of the day's catch mingled with the smoke curling from the hearth. The day slowly unwound, anchored by the unceasing melody of the waves. The harbor surrendered itself to peace. In that quietude, stories of maritime life came to the forefront of the imagination. One could almost see apparitions from the past, sailors waving farewell on wooden piers, little knowing if they would ever see their homeland again. Families of the enslaved, taken without consent, their departure filled with sorrow and unimaginable uncertainty. The same gentle waters that now articulated calm had witnessed the tears that accompanied such forced separations. Through the annals of history, harbors remained steadfast, steadying themselves against the elements of nature and the tide of human endeavors. They stood as metaphors for beginnings and endings, at times vibrant with activity, at others dormant, bathed in stark moonlight. The destiny of those who embarked was as temperamental as the sea itself. In recent times, modern harbors evolved with progress, humming with machinery and technology, yet they retained the essence of their history, a reminder of the duality of hope and loss. Even today, every ship that arrives represents a myriad of personal journeys, some joyous, others marked by challenges yet to be faced. Quiet harbors in all their complexity are like the poignant sea breeze, sometimes gentle, other times fierce, invoking a sense of contemplative rest. It is in the midst of this serenity that one can find solace, lulled by the lullabies of the harbor, acknowledging the rich tapestry of tales interwoven with the whispering shores. In essence, these havens offer a place for reflection on the dual nature of progress, like the tides always moving, yet always returning to a state of peace. Like the idol that lulls one to sleep, their narratives, although marked by history's depth, invite tranquility at their core. In the tumultuous times of the 18th and 19th centuries, as enslaved Africans were brought to new lands far from their homes, they faced the profound challenge of maintaining and redefining their identities in an alien and oppressive environment. Despite the harsh realities of slavery, where their bodies and labor were exploited for economic gain, the spirit of resilience and preservation of culture remained steadfast among the enslaved communities. In the quiet hours of the night, when the plantation hushed and the overseers retreated, small enclaves of enslaved individuals found solace in storytelling. These stories, passed down through generations, contained the myths, legends, and oral histories of their African homelands. By the soft flicker of a shared candle or the glow of the moon, they would gather to share these tales, weaving the tapestry of their past into the fabric of their present. This oral tradition was not just a means of entertainment, it was a potent tool for cultural transmission, a way to keep alive the memory of who they were before the chains. Music played an equally pivotal role in crafting a collective identity among the enslaved. The rhythmic beat of drums, the haunting melodies sung in fields, and the communal gatherings for dance provided more than a respite from labor. These acts were communal assertions of their African heritage, a defiance of the enforced silence that their captors would have preferred. Music became a living archive of culture, blending African rhythms with new influences to create spirituals, gospel, and ultimately blues, each with its own stories of hope, resistance, and longing. In the space between work and rest, some found means to express themselves through craftsmanship. Objects crafted from natural materials became icons of heritage, from weaving intricate patterns into baskets that carried echoes of their African designs, to creating pottery that bore the stamp of their ancestral land. These artifacts were touchstones to a past life. Each crafted item told stories of ancestral artistry, encoded secret symbols, or served as a reminder of a once familiar land. Religion, too, offered a means of redefining identity. Christianity was often forcibly imparted to enslaved Africans, but rather than a complete acceptance, they found ways to syncretize it with their traditional beliefs. The result was a unique blend of old and new, drawing parallels between Christian and African spiritual symbols. African deities often found new names and forms within this hybrid spirituality, creating a sanctum where their old gods were not vanquished, but transformed. This spiritual practice acted as a form of quiet resistance, offering the faithful both hope and a coded connection to their African forebears. Quilting was another peaceful yet powerful medium for identity crafting. The quilts, with their colorful squares and symbolic patterns, were more than warm coverings. They were communal projects and repositories of memory. Passed between hands and generations, each stitch might recount a family saga, encode messages of survival, or simply offer comfort and identity to families torn apart. These quilts carried a tactile history, an emotional warmth, and sometimes even hidden maps or messages for those daring escape through the Underground Railroad. Food, an elemental part of daily life, also became a canvas for cultural identity. With the limited and often meager ingredients allowed to them, enslaved cooks and homemakers nonetheless managed to persist with culinary traditions from Africa, adapted to the new environment. Dishes spiced with the memories of home, seasoned with adaptation, were shared in the brief moments of communal meals. Recipes for cornbread, okra stew, rice dishes, and other southern staples often hark back to African roots, each bite a taste of enduring cultural identity. Above all, it was resilience, the quiet, often unnoticed acts of everyday defiance and adaptation that allowed enslaved Africans to preserve and redefine their identity. Each new generation, born into bondage yet raised on the whispered winds of stories, songs, and traditions, instilled fresh hope for unbroken continuation. Identity was not static. It was ever evolving, passed from heart to heart, hand to hand, along with an unyielding belief in freedom and eventual liberation. And so, within these acts of cultural resilience, stories whispered in the depths of night, songs raised beyond the fields, crafts molded by hand, beliefs reborn in syncretism, and flavors blended from new and old worlds, enslaved Africans sculpted an identity anew. They carried within them the strength of innumerable ancestors, continued their legacies, and, despite efforts to suppress them, let their spirits soar free, untethered by any chain. The river of time flows gently, a serene stream that carves its path unhurriedly through the years, touching moments both remembered and forgotten. In a world where the lives of the enslaved intertwined with broader societal currents, the reflections of time create gentle ripples that whisper stories of resilience and adaptation. The fields of the southern plantations basked under the golden sun, rows of crops swaying in the gentle breeze. Here, as in many places, the lives of those who toiled under the sun were dictated by the rhythm of seasons and the demands of those in power. Yet the river of time, with its quiet whispers, carries tales beyond mere work. In cabins that dotted the landscape, stories were told illuminating a heritage that could not be erased. Songs woven with hope and resistance drifted on the evening air, embedding themselves into the fabric of time. each note a bait upon a thread, connecting past to present, preserving traditions long before they could be put to paper. The river flows ever onward, smoothing jagged edges of harsh realities with the balm of memory. In these currents, moments of tranquility and kinship are found. Under star-studded skies, children listened in wide-eyed wonder to tales spun by elders, their eyes alight with the fire of inherited dreams. Time gently soothes the harshness of toil, weaving a tapestry where beauty and pain coexist. Communities forged in the crucible of hardship found solace in shared experiences. As the river carries them through history's bends, the bonds formed were wrought as unbreakable chains of unity and strength. Along the banks, societies edge forward, propelled by the invisible currents forged by all who contribute to the collective wellspring of history. And so, the threads of individual lives, those often obscured by history's grander narratives, form the intricate patterns of societal evolution. Soft moonlight dances upon the water, a metallic sheen painting over silent reflections of untold dreams. It is here, on these quiet nights, that the river provides a mirror for both joy and sorrow, hope and despair. Neither time nor distance can sever the bonds woven by a shared journey, and through it all, the river flows, inexorable in its passage, promising that each life touched by its waters will resonate with meaning, echoing across the generations that follow, ever at peace in their transformations. In the gentle embrace of time's river, history breathes softly, inviting repose and reflection upon its banks. Here, amid the serene current, drift into peaceful slumber as the endless stories whisper in the air, lulling the soul into dreams woven by the quiet, eternal flow. The history of human societies is often painted with broad brushes, illustrating powerful figures and monumental events that change the course of nations. However, tucked beneath these grand narratives are the quiet dynamics of power that quietly persistent, unseen and often undocumented, but profoundly influential. This is particularly true when examining the relationships between enslavers and the enslaved. Relationships suffused with domination, resistance, and subversion. The study of these dynamics invites us into the shadows, beyond the reach of official accounts. Here, we find the everyday interactions that shaped the lives of those condemned to forced servitude, and those who held the reins of control. It is a history that unfolds not in loud proclamations, but in the whispered exchange of shared understanding, in carefully navigated relationships, in gestures of solidarity and moments of quiet defiance. Enslaved individuals operated within a world defined by oppression, yet within this grim reality, they carved out spaces of agency and resistance. Their actions, often passing beneath the notice of official records, were not necessarily large-scale rebellions, but subtler, quieter forms of dissent that challenged their conditions. It might be in the form of deliberate work slowdowns, where tasks were completed at a deliberately sluggish pace, disrupting the flow of their oppressors' operations without calling attention to outright rebellion. Another form of resistance can be found in the coded language and cultural forms that developed within enslaved communities. Music, folklore, and secret communications allowed for an underground culture to flourish over time, preserving where possible African traditions and fostering a sense of shared identity and resilience. These cultural forms functioned as a quiet but persistent challenge to the dehumanizing efforts of enslavers. Then there were the unrecorded acts of sabotage. These could range from minor acts like breaking tools to more significant disruptions, such as setting fires or orchestrating planned escapes. These actions were generally conducted in secrecy, requiring a sophisticated understanding of the environment and the construction of often fragile alliances, including sometimes with people outside their immediate community, including free people of color or sympathetic abolitionists. Meanwhile, power exercised by enslavers was also nuanced. While historical accounts often focus on brutality, a significant part of their control relied on psychological manipulation. Enslavers might cultivate a patriarchal image, creating rigid structures of authority where loyalty or preferential treatment for perceived obedience was rewarded, thus sowing seeds of division within the enslaved community. A particularly quiet yet powerful tool of control was the detailed surveillance that characterized the lives of the enslaved. Enslavers employed systems to gather intelligence about the enslaved community, their relations, their meetings, even their thoughts when possible, to preempt and quash resistance. In this way, power was constantly reaffirmed not just through violence, but via an unrelenting scrutiny that sought to seep into the very consciousness of those enslaved, making resistance both a personal and communal challenge. However, the enslaved were perceptive of these subtleties of control and developed countermeasures to skirt the edges of oppression. Many enslaved people learned to read and write in secret, a direct affront to the laws designed to keep them in ignorance. Literacy became a quiet but powerful tool for resistance, allowing enslaved individuals to articulate their thoughts, pass messages, and even communicate with a faceless outside world they hoped would respond. One remarkable example involves the use of the stars, especially the North Star. Knowledge of astronomy was passed quietly among those planning escapes, guiding those who fled northward to freedom. The ability to navigate by the stars, taught in secret, became a key liberating force among enslaved people, representing a quiet subversion of the physical chains that bound them. Power, in these relationships, was also wielded in the manipulation of kinship ties. Enslavers often exploited family bonds among the enslaved, using the threat of separation as a tool of compliance. Yet, these same bonds of family and community frequently served as an unyielding foundation for resistance, providing strength and solidarity amidst the struggle. This complex interplay of power and resistance, subtle and often unseen, reveals a deeper nuance to historical narratives often dominated by overt displays of domination. The history of enslaved people is not only one of suffering and subjection, but also one of perseverance, ingenuity, and resilience in the face of insurmountable odds. Stories of solidarity and quiet defiance populate this hidden history. They teach us the profound importance of small acts of resistance in the pursuit of dignity and freedom. In their quiet persistence, these acts offer a solemn reminder of the enduring human spirit and its ability to resist oppression in whatever form it may take. The quiet dynamics of power at play between enslavers and the enslaved reveal much about human interaction under duress, how power can be subtly imposed and equally subtly resisted, shaping a people's history often neglected by mainstream narratives. It highlights the soft underbelly of control mechanisms, questions resilience, and challenges the narratives of compliance. Through this lens, the story of enslavement becomes not only a tale of coercion, but also one of agency, where the enslaved continuously redefined their reality, exercised their ingenuity in the face of systemic restrictions, and consistently tested the limitations of the structures that sought to confine them. This dimension of history remains critical to our understanding of social dynamics and the enduring power of quiet resistance. In the annals of history, where tales of valor, conquest, and governance often proclaim dominance over the more silent narratives, lies a profound parallel between the silent sentinels of the early 20th century and the countless figures of the enslaved across centuries. These individuals, though separated by time, space, and circumstance, share the essence of bearing witness to unseen histories and concealed struggles, both embodying and observing the silent chronicles engraved in the fabric of time. The Silent Sentinels, a group of women suffragists who vigilantly stood outside the White House during Woodrow Wilson's presidency, mark one such chapter of peaceful yet poignant resistance. These women held banners, a quiet fortitude echoing their demand for justice and equality. Their protest was not one of clamor or chaos, but a silent embodiment of resilience and strength. They remained steadfast, observing a world on the cusp of transformation. Despite the indifference or hostility they sometimes faced, they continued to stand, silent yet strong, eyes reflecting the weight of history they sought to transform. Consider now the figures of the enslaved, those who move through the pages of history, bearing silent witness to a world concealed in darkness and pain. Enslavement in itself was a condition of profound silence, a muffled roar of selfhood suppressed under the chains of oppression. Yet, these individuals, much like sentinels, were the witnesses to the veiled narratives of resilience and rebellion that history often overlooks. Their lives, domesticated by force, were the unacknowledged testimonies of lived experiences carried in quietude. Their labor and sacrifices built the economic spectrums of empires, yet their names and traumas remain underrepresented within the exalted tapestries of history. Like sentinels, they bore witness to untold stories of survival amidst adversities, concealing within their hearts the intricate struggles and unbreakable spirits. In envisioning both of these groups, one can find a profound serenity that pervades their stories, an almost whispered tranquility that descends upon the observer when these lives are contemplated in their fullness and depth. Imagine, under the vast canopy of stars, a plantation fields alight not with flames of rebellion but with the soft, flickering glow of stories untold and dreams deferred. It's peaceful here, in this imagined space where the enslaved gathered in moments of silence, exchanging whispers of hope and songs offered to the night sky. Here, amidst the rhythmic chorus of crickets, history is observed as much in its absence as presence. Thus, among the shadows, the figures of the enslaved exist in quiet reflection, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. This silence is not void but vibrantly full of unsung sagas, a stand made more poignant by its peace. They held within them the untold stories of love, ingenuity, faith, and sorrow, all framed within the quietude they were forced to abide. To see them now is to see the silent heartbeat of human history, resting beyond the conqueror's songs and king's decrees. It is to acknowledge the serene might carried by those transformations wrought not in boisterous calls, but in serene, determined presence. In the peaceful retrospections of the night, where history serves less as a recounting of triumphs and more as a tapestry of shared human whispers, the figures of the enslaved and the silent sentinels converge. Here, history is indeed peaceful, drawing the shades closed on restless thoughts, inviting the mind into tranquil reflection. Like a lullaby, the stories these silent sentinels hold sway, reminding us of the patience and perseverance, and the unyielding yet gentle persistence of hope swathed in serenity. In this reflective silence we sleep, cradled by the unspoken assurances that history moves forward, one quiet footstep at a time. In the quiet village of Liberation Hollow, nestled between rolling hills and sprawling meadows, a fresh breeze carried tales of a past long known but scarcely reckoned with. The village stood as a testament to a shared history that, while marred by the scars of bondage, had blossomed into a legacy of freedom. The annual festival of remembrance was just days away, and the villagers were busy weaving garlands of dandelions and daffodils, symbols of resilience and rebirth that filled the air with the fragrance of hope. The roots of Liberation Hollow's peaceful existence lay in its origin, a refuge founded by those who had broken free from their chains, both literal and metaphorical. Situated far from memory's haunting specters, it was here that individuals forged new bonds rooted in unity, shared struggles, and a collective determination to transcend the chains they had once known. As dawn broke, casting golden ribbons of sunlight across the dew-kissed fields, Elder Miriam stood at the heart of the village. A figure of quiet strength, her presence was a reminder of the perseverance and courage that had come before. Though her hair was silvered with age, her voice retained the clear resonance of conviction as she spoke of the old days, the days when the chains were not just metaphors, but tangible weights that bound body and spirit. Our ancestors, she began, eyes scanning the gathering crowd of all ages, did not choose their shackles, yet they forged them into tools that would one day cut through the darkness. They walked with humility and resilience, finding friendship in the unlikeliest of places, forging ties that held fast against the forces that sought to sever them. Josiah, a young boy, no more than 8, sat in the front, his eyes wide with the curiosity and innocence of youth. He leaned in closer to his grandmother, intrigued by the stories of how the villagers' forebears had once risked everything for a chance at freedom. Tales of clandestine meetings under moonlit skies, signs left on branches as messages, songs sung quietly to spread warnings, and the steady beat of hearts yearning for liberty filled his mind. The collective struggle had not merely been one of survival. It was a vision, a dream made tangible through their unity, and as the village grew, the bonds forged in those early days strengthened. Rather than crumble and fall, they held firm against time's erosion, nurturing a community steeped in empathy and mutual respect. Imagine, Elder Miriam continued, a world where those chains had never been broken. It was the strength of our ancestors' spirits that shattered them, not just once, but again and again, until there was nothing left of them but lessons learned, stories told, and a legacy that would guide us for generations. Even as the elder spoke, the preparations continued. Banners of azure and gold were being hung from doorposts, while musicians tuned their instruments, ready to fill the air with melodies that echoed the triumph of former times. Children raced around, practicing their dance steps, their laughter rising like a song itself. It was a time not only to remember, but to celebrate the paths chosen and the victories won, both great and small. It was about recognizing that the legacy of those who had once been bound by chains was not a legacy of defeat or misery, but one of triumph, of a peace that transcended the very chains that once constrained them. Throughout the village, it was clear that each story shared, each lesson learned, each smile exchanged bore the imprint of a legacy built on resilience. The tide of history in Liberation Hollow was one of transformation, from chains to bonds of freedom and peace. Every evening leading up to the festival, lanterns would be released at dusk, hundreds of floating lights lifting into the sky. Each lantern represented a prayer, a hope, a promise to continue weaving the tapestry of legacy. Watching them rise, Elder Miriam's heart swelled with a quiet pride, knowing that these lights, like the village itself, were a beacon for all who sought liberty. As night settled over the village, and waiting for a tranquility that could summon dreams was easy, from one generation to the next, the legacy of liberty carried on, whispered among the willow trees and tangled in the dreams of those who lay under the starlit canopy. Liberation Hollow stood as a promise fulfilled, a reminder that though chains may have marked the beginning, the conclusion was a masterpiece of enduring peace. In a world where history unfurls like a gentle breeze carrying tales through time, we find ourselves drawn to the serene yet profound narrative of the first enslaved Americans. Their story is not merely a sequence of events, but a tapestry woven with threads of resilience, quiet power, and a profound influence on the very fabric of society. Imagine a field peaceful under a tranquil sky, where the whispers of the past echo softly, guiding those willing to listen. Here, history is not a cacophony of battles and kings, but a soothing melody of perseverance and influence. On this serene canvas, we embark on a journey to discover how these individuals, despite their bondage, played crucial roles in the formation of American culture, economy, and social structure. The first threads of our tapestry take us back to the early 17th century. Though they arrived against their will, these skilled, intelligent, and resourceful individuals soon began to shape their surroundings in profound ways. African agricultural techniques and knowledge of crops like rice and tobacco were integrated into the colonial economy, significantly contributing to its prosperity. Yet, it was not just in the fields that their influence was felt. In their quarters, these enslaved people nurtured their own music, stories, and traditions, secret yet powerful extensions of their vibrant culture. Spirituals and work songs, often composed clandestinely, sowed the seeds of what would become a rich tapestry of African American culture and music that continues to influence genres worldwide. In the evenings, after the day's labor, elders would gather the children around the soft glow of a small fire. Here, under the cloak of night, stories from their homelands were passed down, tales of Anansi the spider and other trickster figures deftly outsmarting oppressors. These stories, woven from the threads of creativity and endurance, taught lessons of resilience and hope. Meanwhile, on a broader scale, the presence of enslaved Americans began to alter colonial society's landscape. Their expertise in numerous trades and crafts, from blacksmithing to carpentry, from weaving to brickmaking, proved indispensable. As a result, slaveholders came to rely heavily on these skilled laborers, indirectly granting them a level of influence over daily life. The tapestry grows as these threads intertwine with acts of subtle resistance. Husbands and wives plotted escapes under the guise of darkness, and communities developed intricate communication networks that rivaled colonial systems. Even their cuisine, infused with African flavors and techniques, began to punctuate traditional English fare, quietly altering the palates and habits of their captors. As decades passed, the threads of faith, forged in the cauldron of adversity, emerged as another powerful element of influence. Blending African religious traditions with Christian beliefs imposed by their captors, these enslaved people crafted a unique spiritual tapestry. In hidden prayer circles, under the guise of night, they found solace and strength. This melding of faiths not only sustained them through hardship, but also laid the groundwork for the African American Church's pivotal role in communities nationwide. Even in restrictive environments, enslaved people found ways to educate themselves and their peers. The power of knowledge, though dangerous, became an invaluable thread in their tapestry. Secret schools and stolen moments with books illuminated minds and equipped them with tools to challenge their captivity intellectually. This rich tapestry perseveres, carrying us to the cusp of change where whispers give way to shouts for freedom. The echoes of revolt rumble softly beneath the surface, speaking volumes of the indomitable spirit and courage of those enslaved. And so, as we finally gather these scattered threads into a nuanced tapestry, we unveil the quiet power and profound influence of these first enslaved Americans. Theirs is a legacy of silent strength and unyielding resilience, woven into the very fabric of a nation. And though history often carries the guise of conflict, may this portion of it lull you into peaceful dreams, knowing that beneath the serene facade of time lay the enduring spirit of those who dared to weave their own destinies.